And good evening, guys. How is everyone?
All good. Thank you.
All good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Good. Cool.
Awesome. Yeah, sorry about the delay, guys. We have I had to move the room around a little bit after the first lot, and obviously took longer than expected. Unfortunately, the members live and then swapping over to this one means sending out an awful lot of duplicate links to people and stuff like that. So anyway, here we are. Good evening, everyone. Hello, Philip. Hello, Joe, Dave, Bastian, Craig, Sean, and everyone else. Moon's here. Hello, Moon. Who else we got in chat? We've got a few. But yes, hello. And hello, everyone on screen. Jackie, Jeremy, Jay.
Hello.
So, yes. First of all, let's go around the table. How's your week been, Jackie?
Yeah, well, my sleeping is a pile of rubbish at the moment. So, but besides that, yeah, it's not too bad, I suppose. Could be
I'm glad we
worse.
started on a positive note, though.
Yeah, but no, I'm trying to get it into order, so I'll eventually get there in the end.
Hi, Bastian.
I'm sure you will. What about you, Jeremy? What's been going on? Back at uni?
Back at uni, dude. You know, getting used to getting up early after 2 weeks of just not using my brain at all. Just
You have a brain?
Things. It's like, yes, I do, somewhat. Surprisingly so. Not looking forward to next week where I start off Monday morning, 4-hour lecture on cells. I cannot wait.
Oh my days.
Just on cells?
Just cells. And it's not the interesting animal cells, it's boring human cells.
I was actually listening to a very interesting podcast today. Well, I say podcast, audiobook. I've started listening to audiobooks when I walk the dog. And hi, Caitlin.
Hi,
hey,
Caitlin.
Wendy. We have. I was listening. I recommend this book to anybody who's interested in a bit of science and a bit of history and stuff like that. Called *Sapiens*. It's a brief history of humankind, and I was walking the dog and I listened to, I think it was the first 2 chapters, and the first 2 chapters just talk about genus, talk about species, and talking about how humans sort of evolved and stuff like that. And it starts off about like the discovery in Serbia of the fossilized finger that they found from, I think it's Homo drastris or drestri or something, which was there's a theory that, you know, the DNA of a lot of Europeans and North Africans are from Neanderthals and Homo sapien. And then going out to sort of Asia and around there's like 6% DNA linked to this one they found in Serbia, this finger they found in Serbia or something. It's quite interesting, but it talks all about us being the only species like that survived out of the genus effectively. It's a good book. It seems like it's quite interesting. It talks about a lot of animals and how we've evolved to walk on 2 legs and the problems that have sort of come associated with that. For example, like females and their narrowing of the hips to be able to stand up, but that's obviously reduced the birth canal, which has meant things have to shift and stuff. It's quite an interesting one. If anyone's interested in that type of thing, I recommend it. Anyway, how about you, Jay?
I've had a fairly quiet week, to be honest. I had Monday and Tuesday off, so I've got a ton of stuff recorded. So I'm gonna have once I've got it edited, I've got a good few videos ready to go.
Are you in an hoodie?
Yeah, I am.
Mine's behind me.
See?
Yeah.
I've got mine's in the other room. I'm not dissing on hoodies. Mine's in the other room.
Hey, look, they keep you toasty.
Jeremy, how can you put one on in that room, dude?
You die.
It's 26. It's all right.
Jesus.
Oh, stuff that.
I'm also sat next to an oil-filled radiator. So
yeah, mine's.
Yeah.
I've actually switched mine off because it's 24 in here, and I've just switched it off because I was roasting. So you lot are crazy.
Oh no, I've got mine on.
And you lose 70% of your heat through the top of your head, and so me and Mark sort of struggle with that part, and I'm still hot. So Oodie, Bastian, Oodie, OODIE. They are like a huge fleece dress with a hood.
Yeah.
basically.
Basically, they keep
they're
you
all the
really,
rage.
really warm.
They're all the rage.
Best
Oh, yeah.
Christmas ever.
I got one for Christmas as well. Not this year, last year, but yeah, I think my mum went on a massive, like, I think she must have bought 10, get 5 free or something like that, because every single person in the family ended up with one.
Oh yeah, I bought them for my grandkids. They all got one.
They are good, especially with the cost of gas and electric. Like
Exactly.
they keep you warm, but obviously because of the way they're designed, you don't have to have sweaty undercrackers if you want to just walk around and, as the phrase goes, shirt cock it.
Wendy's got the window open.
Blimmin' hell. How about you, Mark?
Yeah,
How's
I've got
your
the
week
window
been?
open.
I know you've had your
Quiet.
injections and stuff like that, but
Yeah, quiet. I had my injection, had that done, got that out of the way. Apart from that, it's just been really quiet. Done a couple of rehousings. But I didn't video them because there was only like slings.
all right, okay.
Yeah, they're usually pretty quick, aren't they, with slings?
Yeah.
I was actually quite disappointed with the filming this week with my video for next week because the rehousings went. I like a smooth rehouse because it means the animal's not stressed. But these rehouses were over in 30 seconds. I spent more time talking about the rehousing than actually rehousing because they literally just walked into a cup and then walked straight. They turned around themselves and walked straight back out. I just literally moved I was like a crane doing the old the shipping container type motion with them. That was it.
I swear he's just showing off, really.
And are mainly talking about rehouse as well because I don't set up the enclosure on camera. I do it off camera, and then I hide it off camera as well because I don't want it running around. So it's like oh yeah. This is what it looks like. In you go.
Well, this was a thing. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I do the soil and stuff on camera, and other times I don't. And I have this one, but I will time lapse them a little bit because they took a while to mix all the. You know what it's like when you've got vermiculite. Trying to get that thing mixed in and not be all up against the edges of the enclosures and looking awful is takes a while. So it's a little bit boring on that front. But getting the cork bark in and stuff like that, people might sometimes like to see it and have people chatting over the top. I know when I did the avicularia the other week, I sort of clicked through it. Just something a little bit different, sort of made the clicking and then sort of having the rubbish on the screen and then clicking again and it all being there and nice and stuff like that. Just trying to make it more interesting and stuff like that. Hey, Leah. But yes, what's happened here this week? Well,
Leah.
not a lot. I've had a big molt. It's on TikTok. So if you follow me on TikTok, go and watch it over there. But my Sturmy, the big boy, he decided to grace me with a flipping over onto his back before I went to bed. And then he was still just lying there doing nothing. That was 4 a.m, that was. And he was still lying there doing nothing at 6 p.m.
Bloody hell.
Yeah. And that's when you start to think, do I prod it?
Yeah.
He started moving and then was out within 3.5 hours. And he has got some extremely big fingers.
Hi, Emma.
Leah's been a member for 5 months.
Yes, thank you, Leah. I really do appreciate that, honestly. Very much so. Yeah, I'll give you a little bit of a... I won't play the whole thing, but I'll get his fingers on the screen.
Kind of molting in the wild, though. I know the chances of running into one is practically impossible, but that would be so cool to see a time lapse of a spider in its natural burrow molting.
Oh, yeah.
Jay's been a member for a month. And Bastion's just become a new member.
Ooh, nice.
That is a big finger.
Jeez.
Poor feet.
When you compare it to the size of its fangs, they are huge. Someone said to me, I think in the chat, I put it quite eloquently. Someone said, why don't they hook out? Because the Apophysis does hook out, but the Blondie and the Sturmy don't. And I said, I'm pretty sure that with D fingers like they've got and the amount they're going to punch, they're going to almost punch the female into a Zen state. They don't need tibial hooks or restraints to hold her down.
Yeah.
Matt.
Yo.
Jay's BH has just become a new member.
Oh, Bastion, you legend. Thank you so much, dude. Honestly, I love the support. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, buddy. Thank you very much. Hey, Helen. Honestly,
Hi,
I think
Ellen.
It's also a thing
Are
with
you,
the
Ellen?
hooks. Typically in the wild, they're not going to pair outside of the burrow. Usually the female will come to the mouth and the male will push against the top of the burrow because they're more secure in the wild. You know, you got
yeah.
the root systems holding these burrows up. Arboreals have, or they don't get hooks, but you know what I mean, like a trunk, so they have a solid foundation to push them up. So it does kind of make sense with the Theraphosas not, well, some of them not having those tibial hooks. It's not really necessary because you I don't know if people have seen a burrow of a Theraphosa, but they're quite big, solid, like
They
that
dig a
female
lot of dirt out.
in that hole.
Yeah.
You push her up.
It's strange how the apophysis does. It's quite an interesting thing because, like, to obviously group a genus in, they've got a lot of the similar characteristics, but to have something quite substantially different amongst males like that is quite an interesting one.
That'll be something interesting to see in taxonomy in the future, whether they'll be classified within their own species or not.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, thanks, Jackie. Appreciate that. It's strange, isn't it? Because like with the chromatus, that I haven't read much into the paper or anything like that. Just obviously the notes that Jay shared. But it's interesting with the chromatus being moved out into the Viatula or whatever it's called now, because that if when you look at a chromatus and you look at not so much a carapoensis, but when you look at the Colorato velosus and you compare those two spiders, it's just the abdomen, the setae, that's a different color on them. That's it between them. So to actually move the chromatus away to a different genus, I'd be interested to know what differences they've decided are significant enough to actually pull it from the genus.
It could be a case of genetics, just a DNA sequencing that's split them apart, and or just matching them to the evolutionary tree and seeing how far apart these species are. It's the same thing if you said with Gramisola, Quaggi, and Pulchra, which have been separated by a single river, but they've evolved so differently that they can't interbreed, which is a theory on why Pulchra was so hard to breed before, because they weren't breeding Pulchra to Pulchra, they were breeding Quaggi to Pulchra.
Right, okay. Oh, that's interesting.
But then again, it's all speculation unless we dig into the papers and find out the true reasonings for it. It's a guessing game at the end of the day. Crack out your label makers and hope for the best.
It's quite an interesting one, that's for sure. I was when I was doing the research I do actually do a little bit of research every now and then, doing some investigation stuff into the stuff regarding spiders' legs and stuff for the H. pulchripes video that I put out today. When I was going through it, I was reading all the papers from Cambridge University and Aarhus, which is a Danish university, talking about how much actual work they do for because there's not a lot of studies that go into, like we always say that, like for inverts, there's not a lot of studies. There's not a lot of funding and things like this. But one of the big areas that there is a lot of funding and financial gain from, and this is why people do research things, is for animals and robotics, for engineering purposes.
Yep.
And luckily, spiders' legs fall into that category where they actually have quite a lot of studies done. Because one thing I didn't realize, I knew that obviously they're using like hydraulics, but one thing I didn't realize was the fact that they've proven that all the legs actually act completely independently of each other. They have no requirement to actually to have an obligation to any other leg. So like if one leg is moving one way, the other legs do not have to move in that way at all. They are completely separated. So it's almost like having 8 little computers. So when a spider does drop a limb, it makes no difference when it does come back, and it comes back a lot smaller and less significantly sized and things like that. It can function completely independently of the other legs that it's got. it doesn't need to rely on a balance thing for the same length or things like that. It was actually quite an interesting. I went down a little rabbit hole with it, and then realised I had to get a video out and I had to stop reading. It was quite an interesting article.
It's fascinating, the kind of research that goes into it. And it's like, you know, people are wondering, well, if it's snapped a leg off or a pedipalp or something like that, how does it manage to reuse it again? But like you're saying, they're all independent, and the fact it's not muscle, it's hydraulic.
I'm more surprised though, like for example, with that Polk piece, it's like, where on earth did it store 6 legs? Because
it's a bit weird,
you know,
that,
when they push their old exoskeleton off and all those legs are growing inside those old legs that they're pushing off.
Yeah.
When it actually doesn't have the limb, it is literally storing those 6 legs inside. It's got to be inside the carapace.
You got another new member.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
Joe. Oh, honestly, thank you so much. That is unbelievable. Really do appreciate it. Thanks, Joe. That's cool. I do love the support. Thank you so much. I don't know if I should crack out the dad jokes in a little while, because obviously I know Bastian's joined just for the dad jokes.
Oh no, here we go.
But yes, it's fascinating. Honestly, it is just absolutely fascinating. It's like the fangs, everything, like the separation from the old fangs to the new fangs, and having them actually inside that. It's just crazy to think how they.
Bastian's gifted 5 memberships.
Yeah.
Hey.
Oh my word! Wow. Who have they gone to?
I'd have to see on my phone.
Craig Williams,
Never heard of him.
Gather for Magic, Charlotte as well. Well done, Charlotte was gifted membership.
Mm-hmm.
Ian was gifted a membership.
Cool.
Thank you so much, Bastian. That's awesome, dude. Appreciate it, man.
You cricket, shut up. Oh shit.
The whole reason I don't use crickets anymore. I hate that sound.
Yeah, I know, but they get eaten by gecko. So it's the only thing I feed them to.
I found out something interesting today as well. Do you know what Homo sapien actually means?
No.
Right. So Homo is man, and sapien is wise.
Wise man. Oh.
Yeah.
Mm.
Interesting, huh?
Could you tell the Americans that, please?
If you told Americans that, Jay, they tell you to prove it.
This is the weird thing. Well, this is why it's quite interesting, because obviously sapien means wise, and obviously if they're talking about the other species within the genus for man, effectively, it makes more sense that some people aren't possibly directly descendants from sapien. Maybe they are from one of these other species that have long since disappeared. I do, Leah. You're absolutely right. I do love everybody, and thank you so much for everybody.
Denisons, did something or other as one of the humanoid type species that they found fairly recently.
Yep.
And they've sort of traced that there's still sort of DNA from that in sort of people largely around Eurasia, I think.
Yeah, that's the 6%. They 6% of the DNA makeup of the Asians and stuff. I think it was the one found in Serbia or something around there. It was one of the fossil. It was a finger, I think. And it is, they 6%. I think they said with the DNA makeup, which is quite. There you go. Denevosians. Yeah, it's quite cool. Honestly, Jay, if you've got access to the audiobooks or whatever, or you fancy have something to read in, that Sapiens book is unbelievable. It's a really good book.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, it's quite.
Is it on Prime?
I think so. It might be. Yeah.
I'll have a look later.
Connor had it. He read it when he was at school, and he bought it as a gift for his maths teacher as well. He was so impressed with it. Connor doesn't read a lot, but he's read that. But yes, they reckon, I think it's 4% of Europeans are mixed with Neanderthal. But the Neanderthals actually had a bigger brain than us.
Well, it goes for cranial size as well for the Neanderthal. Yeah.
So they were saying One of the things that made me chuckle about the book was it was talking about brain size in comparison to as your body mass, and the issue with having large brains is whilst our brain may only take up 2 to 3% of our body mass, it takes 25% of our daily fuel at rest just to keep it going. So it's hugely ineffective to have a big brain, which is one of the reasons why it's we have to fuel our bodies. But it was quite funny because they were talking about if brain size was comparable with, amongst other things, that frogs would be the one thing that would have actually had their space program done many, many moons ago because of the comparison with their brain size to body mass.
Jeez.
I just made me chuckle. I must have looked very strange because I had my headphones on. I was walking down the main road and I had to stop because I was laughing. Just like randomly on the side of the pavement, a bit like just laughing my head off about that comment about frogs.
Jeez.
It's a book called Sapiens, Helen. It's quite an interesting book.
And first land-based animals. So they would have probably been to the moon and back by now. Yeah, that's for sure. If they
I
had
was saying, it was. I think it was also. Didn't realise the amount of animals that are under Panthera, like as a genus, which like basically all the big cats, like even lions and stuff. They're part of that genus and stuff like that, and leopards and everything. They all fall under the same genus, which is quite unique. It's quite
They
good.
can all crossbreed.
Well, this is the other thing. This is the other thing they were talking about. When you have animals that are very similar, but they cannot crossbreed, yet every species of dog can, for example. It was quite interesting. It's quite interesting. It's a good book. It's a good book, but I won't keep promoting them because I don't get any commission. So, Jeremy, I'm interested to know. So, what was this? What's the topic you have burning desire at the tip of your tongue you wish to raise today?
So I was listening to a podcast, my friend Hannes. I don't know if you guys have listened to the live stream I did with him. So he was invited on to the Animals at Home podcast, but it wasn't with Dylan. It was, that Project Herpeticulture series going on the channel as well. And the two guys, I can't remember their names off the top of my head, and they asked him a question. And I just thought it was a really, really good question. It was just basically questioning the origins of species within the hobby and how it relates to reptiles, where you see with reptiles a lot of stuff is captive bred, but a lot of species are relying on wild catching because it's cheaper. Therefore, breeders don't have the motivation to breed said species. For example, like with tarantulas, the curly hairs, for example. If you can get a en masse bulk of adults to juvenile specimens from the wild, why would you bother breeding them? Kind of thing, people want that big satisfactory. I just thought it was really interesting in why you guys would see the hobby as at the moment. Do you think it's the amount of breeding we have is good enough at the moment, whether we should improve upon it? And with different categories of inverts, where do you see like how do I explain it? The source of said animals, is it predominantly wild caught, captive breeding, farming, etc.?
I'll let others go first. Let others air their thoughts.
So I think in terms of other inverts, I think certainly since I've been in the hobby, things like roaches and isopods are definitely becoming more popular, and I think a lot of that is all coming from captive bred populations. I don't know that it is. That's just what I think, and I think that's healthy. I kind of get the point with. I think there's a lot of species of tarantulas that are probably actually the more common ones that do produce large egg sacs, but they also take a long time to grow. So I get that side of taking them from the wild. But I mean, just in the time that I've been in the hobby, I think a lot more people are now sort of prepared to get into their own breeding projects.
Yeah.
And I think the more people do that, and especially the likes of people like us that don't necessarily have huge YouTube channels or whatever, but do have a bit of a following and are putting stuff out there, I think that helps just like your average home keeper think about giving it a go. And I think that that's all positive.
Yeah. Okay.
That's my
Hey, you,
opinion.
Mark. You got anything, Mark? You want to add on that?
No, I think captive breeding is a good thing in a lot of ways, because you don't want to be taking everything from the wild. I agree on some points that you do need to take some out, but like now with curly hairs and that, they just get overbred. They're flooding the market, and then when they get the market flooded, people just don't want them anyway. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's I've seen it happen with things like curly hairs and that, but yeah, I think sometimes it is good to take the odd couple out of the wild, but don't do it so you're slimming the population down.
How long have you been keeping spiders for, Mark?
Round about 7-8 years.
Right. Okay. And have you seen like different species become hugely popular in breeding and then sort of gradually decline, and then others sort of spring up and do?
I've seen some. I have seen some, but it's like, I don't know, people seem to go for the commonest spiders to breed.
Do you think
And,
that's because, as hobbyists, if you are going to breed something, you don't want to risk a spider that's cost you a lot of money in case your breeding's unsuccessful and you lose your spiders, if they're pets primarily, as opposed to like, people, I hate to use the word throwaway, but if you've got a spider that's super cheap that you can breed relatively easily with little conditioning, such as a curly hair, do you think that's why people choose to go for that? Because they think, oh, it's my first go, I'll have a go with these?
I think some of the times it is. I mean, it's like me. I've never bred anything, but I'm now like trying with the Balfouris. I'm trying with the Incies.
Yep.
But it's I don't know. It seems to me that a lot of people do for the first time go for the commonest and easiest to breed.
Yeah, I wonder if that's just because of availability of males to the females at the size that they're going to be at. Like, obviously, there's going to be a correlation between the number of spiders available and whether or not you choose to breed them. Because, for example, if you're trying to breed something that's quite difficult to come by, like, we'll go for my situation at the moment. I've got the Purians, and I'm quite fortunate the fact I've got a mature male, a female that's large enough. Well, these used to be very common in the hobby, but no one seems to have much of these at the moment. And so my smaller female just molted, and I sent the spermitica photos off to Luke just to ask him whether he thinks she's going to be big enough to breed, because she has got quite dark spermitica, but she's slightly smaller than the male still. So he's like, she'll be ready to breed. It's whether or not you want to risk, because the male's quite aggressive as well. So it's difficult with that. So for me with those ones, it's like, it's the availability, but also I feel that I need to do the breeding of them, because if I do get a successful egg sac, it could be good for like my friends anyway, and people around here who might not have this spider, and then they can get hold of it. I think for me, regards to like where the hobby is, Jeremy, like for
Hi,
me,
Charlie.
I think a lot of the
Hey,
talk
Charlie.
about captive bred versus the wild caught. Obviously, you've got the huge debate with regards to bloodlines. Now, for me, that argument holds true for an awful lot of species, but when you're talking about something like a Talitocata alboplosus, right, and you're bringing in new bloodlines, and people say it's because we want to bring in pure bloodlines because the hobby's possibly been muddied because you've got true and hobby form being mixed and interbred and things like that. For the most part, I think that's crap, because if you're bringing in pure bloodlines, the people who are going to buy them are going to buy them because they're still cheap spiders, and you can get sub-adults for relatively cheap. And the chances are that people who do buy them will either sell them on, or if they decide they want to breed, they're going to take a male from the hobby anyway. They're not going to wait for a male to be bought in from wild caught as well. And there's enough egg sacs and probably enough bloodlines from the different times that they have been caught from the wild and brought into the hobby over the years that the bloodlines are quite diluted and they're not interbred so much with that type of species.
Yeah.
So with regards to that one, I think it depends in my brain. I think it depends on which spiders you're talking about and which inverts you're talking about as to bringing them in from wild caught, whether they're needed or not, and doing it for the good reasons as opposed to just easy, quick money because you can bring in a pulchra that's 4 inches big as opposed to someone having to breed them and then raising them for 2 years before they can sell them on at a decent size that people are going to be interested in, because no one wants to be buying eggs with legs, that's for sure. But,
I think you've got to take into account. So when we were talking about people breeding, typically sort of the cheaper, easier to come by spiders.
mm-hmm.
I think, for a lot of people, unless you are sort of more serious into your breeding, for your average keeper, you might not be wanting to spend, like a lot of these newer species to the hobby, coming in at like 150, 250 quid a sling. If you're going to be serious about breeding, really, you're going to want to buy a bunch of those to start with in hope of getting a female. So it's a big outlay. And then you've got to wonder whether a lot of the sellers keep a lot of the prices high so that not very many people are buying these more expensive species anyway.
Yeah.
Which then maintains their profit because less people are breeding it and then they can keep selling it at the higher prices because there's not as many around.
I think there's quite an interesting point, sort of like segue on that point, is the fact that when you have I think the Bioroops has been in the hobby long enough now to sort of even use that as an example. You can see what's happened with this. They came in, they were extremely expensive, and people were umming and ahhing about buying them. Their price gradually dropped the more that they came into the hobby, but they still maintained quite a premium price. But the issue is people see the premium price, and then what happens is the people who are catching these are thinking, oh, these fetch a lot of value, so we'll go out and catch more. And then they were doing a lot of like unscrupulous things with them in the wild to get them into the hobby.
Yeah.
Because they thought it was going to be a quick buck. But the trouble is, because the market then became flooded, the price then dropped.
Yeah.
But that affected the hobby. That's affected the spider population in the wild quite drastically in a very short space of time.
Areas were stripped of them, quite literally stripped, and hence why the taxonomists, which described the Birupes, got into a lot of trouble when they did it, because the specimens to them unknowingly were just from the wild with no recollection of asking the local government if they could collect them or not, because market, that's the main thing of why they were stripped, is just because sell them, like you said, at a quick buck. And that's the unfortunate case with when it comes to like spiders and stuff as well, is everyone wants to breed the stuff that makes the money, because unfortunately that's just how the hobby works. It's all mainly with the money. Yes, the spiders look nice, but with common species like your LPs, your curly hairs, where you're begging to give them away at some points, whereas breed one of these new Orthonoxinae, you're thinking of maybe 20-30 pound a sling. So it's a money motivated thing, and unfortunately that's where a lot of the breeding focus goes towards, is species where they will maintain that value and won't drop. Because you see it with the Orthonoxinae Vietnam silvers. I mean, females were going for £300-400 a year and a half ago. But again, like rupees, because a lot of them were collected, wild caught, sacks were brought into the hobby, those slings were sold. Growing up now, the prices dropped from 100, and I think they were 150, 175 pound for a sling a year and a half ago. Now they're £40 a sling. But people aren't going to do Vietnam silvers anymore because they don't want to have a spider that they paid top dollar for drop in a year and a half.
But this is where it's a good thing for. This is where I sort of go back to your more average keeper, that when they suddenly become 40 quid a sling, that's a lot more accessible for a lot of people, that maybe you've got a year or two's experience and you're not that confident at keeping such an expensive sling. 40 quid, you're going to chance it a bit more.
Yeah.
And it's all these kind of people that are potentially going to breed these things. And we kind of need that to keep the prices low, because the lower you keep the prices, the less demand there is to take from the wild, because that quick buck isn't there anymore.
No.
And this is where the hobby almost is at odds with itself a little bit, because we need sellers to be having these imports to keep the hobby going, because primarily, if it was just the bedroom breeders and there was no imports coming from the bigger sellers, the bigger shops like Spa, Portsmouth, Spider Shop, or people like Creature of the North, we wouldn't have a hobby if it wasn't for these sellers having this access to the outside world and bringing these spiders into us. It would really be damaging not to have them around. So it's difficult, because you sort of almost want these sellers, and it's a good thing for the hobby to be out there. But at the same time, it would be nice to see a little bit of what used to happen with the local arachnid clubs before I was in the hobby, for sure. Anyway, but do you remember? Jeremy, like the Invicta Club down at the ones that run Seas, isn't it? Invictus, or whatever they're called. They used to have meetings, and invariably you'd hear stories that someone would breed a spider, and they'd come along to their monthly meet or wherever they used to run it at, and they'd come along, and people would have these sling vials, and they'd just give them to the members, like the people who were there. It's like, oh, I've got these slings, here we go, like, everyone help yourself to a sling. And then the next month, someone would come along with a different spider, and they would go, "Oh, look, here's these slings," and give away these other spiders that they'd bred. And there used to be a much more like community sharing type feel to the hobby, from what I understand.
Hello first.
So it's difficult, because obviously you do need people like Lee going out and getting what he brings into the country. People like Clayton and Luke and his dad and things like that. You need these people to be able to do this type of stuff.
Yeah. I don't think they need that yet. They get
From
that.
breeding standards as well, I think that
Okay.
is breed and
Yeah.
be discussed. A fantastic example of captive breeding is phasmids. Surprisingly, you'll see an example is what's the Uracantha calcarata? So they have the Uracantha horrida. Those came 2 years ago, and there hasn't been wild collecting since those original specimens came in, were distributed between breeders, and now they're relatively common and captive bred for a couple generations now. With I know it's a little easier with phasmids, but a lot of vectors, the Australian sticks, you're not going to get fresh bloodlines from there, but a lot of them are still a good size, breeding relatively well, and we could learn from that. And the same thing can be said with the mantids hobby. Common species, orchids, ghosts aren't imported, because ghosts you're not allowed to import from where they're from. I can't remember off the top of my head where ghost mantis, paradoxa come from. Orchids, you're not getting wild caught oofs too much anymore. And again, hobbyists are able to breed them. I do understand with those kinds of inverts a little easier, because you're not waiting 15-20 years for a female to mature and get ready to breed and finding a male at the same time. You're doing that within a year. Same thing with the trues. It's like, recently trues have been bursting with popularity, and I'll admit I was on that bandwagon. I really enjoyed keeping them, and that's why I'm trying to captive breed them now, is because a fear for me, and it should be be a general fear, is what is going to cut off exports next, because it can and will potentially happen. Look at Argentina and how many species we're no longer able to access because of the fact that they cut off export. Same thing with African countries, Zimbabwe, Tanzania. We can't get the flat rocks as commonly as we could years ago. You can get them so cheap, like flat rocks. Just when I first joined the hobby, 2019, they were £25 for a juvenile scorpling, for a Hadrogenes troglodytes, which nowadays you won't find a troglodytes for 40 quid.
Hi, Michael.
The scorpling,
So
Michael. Me, and the kind of the point that I was thinking about listening to the podcast where I got this whole topic from is, no matter where you are in the hobby, get that experience, learn from keeping, and do try to breed where you can. You know, reach out to sellers before breeding. You know, don't just rush into it because you think you're going to make a quick buck. Because for me, I spend loads on this hobby from personal money. I make money from selling animals, but that money goes straight back into buying new projects and carrying on breeding. Hence why I have loads of true spider species I've got bred, but I am not living luxury, you know, driving a Lamborghini because I've bred 10
Hi, Mark
species,
from Victoria.
breeding 10
He's obviously
species.
lying because he's definitely got that silver teeth
Hobby.
somewhere.
Yeah, that's the main thing, is reach out. My advice is, when people will say, should I breed, is do your research in what the demand is in the market currently at the time of you considering breeding. Reach out to sellers before you do, so at least you know if you have a sack, those spiders can go somewhere and you're not worried about feeding 100, 200, 300 slings, you know, and just enjoy the experience, because it's fascinating watching life cycles happen and life being created because you enabled it to do so. It's a great experience.
Hi, Mark and
I'll
Victoria.
definitely say, like, with my one, I mean, I've done 2 pairings at the moment.
Just gonna get water.
But to have the Avic story that I put out, like, it was actually this time last year. I went to seas and I was given 2 males. I purchased 2 males, and then obviously then the egg sac, and then you know, all the drama that's ensued from that. It was crazy to see from some, like, I was a huge arachnophobe 3-4 years ago now.
Same.
To be sat there on the bathroom floor shouting for the missus to come up and watch this, like, whilst we've got the male avic going in and mating with the female on the edge of her enclosure, was just like, I found myself a couple of times like getting a bit lightheaded because I was holding my breath because I didn't want to breathe. I didn't want to breathe on the spiders or anything like that. And I had the whole thing I had about 1 billion cameras all set up around the room. And it was just crazy, like, to witness, you know, to actually witness that. And then obviously for the egg sac production, and then watching the babies come out and start to move around, and then unfortunately pass away. It was like that got me. That really did. It felt like, you know, someone had just grabbed your throat and pulled it out. It was a horrible experience, but I'm so grateful to still have the experience. You know, it's like the Purians. When I paired them, I was a lot more calm. The female did go for the male. I did block her with my arm. Rightly or wrongly, it was the only thing to near me that I could use that was definitely going to stop her.
Yeah,
and she did sort of headbutt my palm, but I wanted him because, you know, this is where the issues lies, because I knew the value of him. I knew the fact that if that pairing wasn't, I've watched all the footage back. I don't know. I mean, you've seen the footage, Jeremy, as well. I don't know whether he did get insertion, so I need to do it again. So he's a valuable spider to me. I will do it again because I also understand the fact that the fact I was given him for this purpose, and the fact I have the female, and the fact they're not readily available, makes it quite an important project for me as well. So I'm not doing it for credit for me or anything like that. I'm just doing it to hopefully get a lot of these babies out there and pass them on to people. You know, I couldn't give a monkeys if I gave the male and the female to someone else to do. It's not about that part for me. I'm not after fame or glory or anything. It's just the fact that it's a fascinating experience, absolutely fascinating experience. And I never thought I'd be sitting here talking to people about spiders. That's for sure. If someone had asked me 5 years ago, I'd have said you're mental.
I would think and just go back to my fish tanks. Like, if my college tutor didn't introduce me to this hobby, I would not be where I am today. And like with the experience with the Avics, Matt, it's like, yes, it does look like I have a lot of successful projects, but I've had a lot of failures as well. Like, I'll admit it. There's a few things that I didn't have successful projects in. A lot of Mantidae, I haven't personally. For me, I didn't have success in breeding different species. I had a similar thing with the Avix review, Matt, where I bred the Holconia insignis, which are the giant Australian huntsmans.
Right.
got-
Okay.
Really nice breeding ratio, 3 females, 2 males. I lost pretty much all of them but a pair during a heat wave because apparently Australian huntsmen don't like hot weather.
Right.
Mine is a
managed
different type of heat, isn't it, though?
An hour pairing successful. She produced the egg sac. I saw the nymphs crawling inside that egg sac, and I said to myself, "Oh, I'll pull it tomorrow morning. I'm going out for dinner with the family." I come back home. She's eaten the egg sac. There's a half squished nymph at the bottom of the enclosure from her eating the egg sac. And 3 egg sacs produced later, all the eggs were duds. So, you know, that was heartbreaking to me. You know, that was a project I've wanted to do for a long, long time. Australian huntsmen are the creme de la creme of true spiders. You know, they're the typical ones that you want, that you see on the news, of giant, scary spiders. And
Yeah.
it's heartbreaking. But lessons learned from that has enabled me to get the experience to further put it towards successful projects. You know, now I
Yeah.
know to look out for. I know to keep my females well fed. You know, it's small things like that. Without trying it, you won't know. Of course, don't feel like you're obligated to breed, guys, if you don't want to. Like, it's not a thing. But I would encourage it for anyone who would have any sort of interest to give it a go.
Yeah, my point onto that would be, primarily people will keep these animals because they are your pet.
Yeah.
So breeding for a lot of people is possibly not something you want to seriously consider and weigh up the pros and cons of it before you do it.
Of course, yeah.
I never thought that I would. But when I had the opportunity with his Avix, and the only reason I did choose Avix to start off with, even though I know that they can be difficult at times to keep alive as slings, and I know that some people do struggle with them, and I that's a whole nother topic that I have an opinion on, but I think it's just because of the way the care is so inaccurate for a lot of people with those spiders. But
Yeah.
when I did the Avix, I knew one thing for sure, and that was the fact that after speaking to Luke and his dad for quite a period of time, Avix are super gentle with regards to pairings. So it was seemed like a very good choice to do. But my opinion now is obviously changed for various things with regards to, like I say, the Purians. Like I say, it's the availability of them that is making me want to try and do those ones. But I would say that they are your pets primarily. And I know full well, having my Sturmy mature out this week, people are saying to me straight away, you know, are you looking to breed them? Are you going to look at breeding them? And that's difficult because he's like a small dog. And to actually go and breed those and actually have to then condition the female, condition the male, and everything else that entails, it's an awful lot of work with a relatively low success rate on those as well. So they are, you know, they're my pets first. And to be honest, will I breed him? Probably not, unless I can get a female myself. But it's an awful lot. It's not just a case of putting them together. The Avix, you just put them together. The Purians, that was, like Luke said to me, that was his first ever breeding project. So he just threw the male in. And to me, they do seem to be quite easy to put together. I do have a lot of footage of him wandering around the outside of her enclosure for about an hour and a half, trying to figure a way in, even though he only had about 3 inches of plastic to climb up. He seemed wanting to drum on the tiled floor instead, wondering why she wasn't interested. But yeah, you know, they're your pets, and I do think that don't just put a male in with a female just because you think that you have to progress that way. If you've been in the hobby for a couple of years and you think that you need to, I mean, looking at Mark says he's been keeping for like 8 years or something like Mark. He said,
yeah,
and his breeding projects, literally, you've been of the opinion for a long time, haven't you, that you're not interested in it really because they're things you want to look after.
Yeah.
And it's only recently you've sort of had a look at it. So, you know, don't feel obligated that I've been in the hobby 2 years, I must breed now.
It's not despite how many projects I've done, I've only been in the hobby for 4 years, just over 4 years.
Oh, wow.
You know,
Mm.
I've come from breeding fish and breeding neocardinia, the prawns, cherry shrimp, and then I just did it because it was something that I had interest in, and especially with the true spiders, of keeping them in the hobby because they could just disappear out of nowhere, and you can not have them again. So that for me is a big motivation. And another a little bit off point, but still related to the thing, is as much as we dog on the American hobby, it's unfortunate that they have things like with the Sri Lankan pokies where they're not allowed to go over state lines. So even if people did want to breed, unfortunately, if you have a male that's on the other state, you can't get it. So it's banding together and keeping bloodlines going in the states that
So
they're in.
Connor raises an interesting point, saying like seeing how driven the males are. It is one thing when you have a spider that matures out in your care, and then you see that they are desperate. You see them wandering. They do wander an awful lot, and you see them wandering, and you see them making their sperm webs. You see them tapping away. You see them doing all these things. It's quite hard to take to see them gradually go off food. I think that's the hardest part, is seeing them go off food and just abdomen shrinking and watching them decline.
Yeah, it's horrible, that.
But it's also difficult because, like, my first spider was a GBB. It's actually Connor's spider, because it was the first spider we bought, and we bought it for him. And we had this GBB, and it matured out last year. And he goes a good month and a half, maybe 2 months at times, not eating, and then he'll eat. But he's been mature for a long time now, and he's literally made 2 sperm webs this week, and flipped upside down, loaded himself back up again, and wandering around his enclosure. Which is sad to see from this perspective that he's probably not going to get a female, but at the same time, he's still alive, he's still eating, he's still doing his thing. I know for a fact, being a GBB, if he went off to be paired with anything, because he's been mature for so long, chances of him being viable for her are a lot slimmer than when he was fresh.
Yeah.
And the other side to that is, with how vicious the GBBs can be. I know some people are saying then, they've had experiences where there haven't been with the females. Generally, the pairings are quite aggressive with the females afterwards. I would hate to see him get munched and him not be viable just for the sake of that. He still eats, he's still my pet, and he's just aging. So I get it, and I don't get it at the same time. I understand both sides of it, I think.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, dude. I've got a Nandu chromatus, which was my very first tarantula I've been raising since it was a pinky little dot. And he's now about this big, and I'm not sending him off for breeding. I'm keeping him. He's the first predatory invert that I got, and me to where I am today. So he's like a good reminder of where my origins come from. Starting off, even just looking back at my Instagram and Snapchat memories of simple little tubs with a piece of wood and cocoa fiber, and where I've progressed on to now. So he doesn't have a name. He's just my little Nando. But
He's your what?
He's my little Nandu, or my Nando's, little Nando's. But he just reminds me of
What spider is it?
If such as Nandu chromatus.
What spider is it?
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Violetatus, or whatever it is.
See, even I forget. Vitalis, or whatever it is now. Vitalis chromatus.
Yes.
See, yeah, I got caught out
there. I'm sorry, Jeremy. I couldn't help it.
No, it's fine. This little Vitalis chromatus. It just shows my progression in the hobby, and it's got sentimental value to me. And with Nandu's being so common,
the chromatus, as far as egg sac goes, it's like, I've got a mature male as well. He matured out probably in the summer last year. Why am I not putting him on for breeding? Because they produce huge egg sacs, massive egg sacs, and the market is flooded with them. What benefit am I doing giving potentially another egg sac of a chromatus out there when every single seller has egg sacs upon egg sacs of chromatus and all these slings available? All in my mind, I almost have a responsibility as a keeper not to oversaturate, because you have a lot of these spiders that people just, unfortunately there are keepers who are like, oh, spider's died, I'll just get another one. Oh, spider's died, I'll just get another one. There's no sort of like duty of care.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to shit on people, because I'm not trying to be high and mighty or anything like that. I'm just saying that there can be that culture that it's only a spider, and it shouldn't be that way in my brain. And for me to aid another egg sac of a chromatus, it's like, what is the point? What am I adding to the hobby?
Because the oversaturation as well, it in a novice keeper's mind, and not saying novice, just like they're going to look at that and be like, well, I see slings, I see juvies, I see subadults, adult females, and adult males everywhere. Everyone has them. I don't want that. I want to stand out and go for, the more expensive spiders. And, it's not just more of a money thing. It's,
Exactly.
it's a keeper's thing as well. You want the cool spiders. You want the expensive, the rare, the unique stuff. And if something has been overbred to the point where people are giving them away, and not just like a one or two, like half the sack is just given away to someone, it's, with keepers, especially new keepers, they're not going to want to. You can only have so many new keepers getting 1,000 naturals, let alone multiple sacks of Vitalis.
So, I mean, you can look at it on a completely other spin, like what Steve says there about snakes and stuff. The number of royals that are saturated into the market because breeders become, I'm choosing the words carefully, we've tried not to upset or offend people, but it's a case of, unfortunately, money motivates a lot of people, and some people will be quite unscrupulous with regards to the fact that they just want to make as much money possible, and they think that's done by overbreeding, because there's more to sell, they can make more money. And it's not like that, because there's only so many kettles you can sell in the UK before everyone has a kettle and no one wants to buy another kettle.
Yeah.
What is the point in overbreeding? You go to the largest wholesaler of reptiles in the UK, and they have over 5,000 bearded dragons a year. Why?
Yeah, stupid, isn't it? Far too many.
And the thing is, with the royals and kind of reptiles in general, it's kind of like the golden ticket, or not the golden ticket, the gold rush era. Everyone wants that new gene.
Yeah.
Everyone wants that new morph, because that new morph will sell for thousands and thousands of pounds and dollars. You see it in America all the time with these new ball python morphs coming out, and they're selling at 20K. Then 5 years later, they drop down to 200 for an adult because they can't sell it.
And even worse than that is the fact that because there are new, like you see it with the leopard geckos, right? New morph comes, everybody wants this new morph. What they don't see until it's been around for a while is the neurological problems that come along with those morphs. Or
like
potential
royals.
Yeah. It's a case of, if you want to pick up a leopard gecko, go for the standard natural leopard gecko, because it will be the healthiest,
likely the most healthiest gecko. They don't look the nicest in a morph kind of sense, but you got a healthier animal, and one that will last longer with you. And even with leopard gecko morphs, I mean, they were talking about in the podcast with Hannah is how, like, what's that new? Is it the midnight, the black ones?
Wow.
They used to go for $2,000 only 2 years ago. Now
Really?
$250, $300, because it's a gene that's just popped up, and now everyone has one. They don't want them anymore. Same with lily white cresties. How much were lily white cresties 2-3 years ago? And now they've gone to a couple hundred, if that.
I mean, it's always going to be a topic that's very divisive because people who breed are going to defend their decision to do so for which is fair enough. And then you're going to get people who hold an opinion of, there's too many reptiles in the market. There's anytime you have rescue centres that are inundated and overrun with rescues going in, why are people breeding? You look at dogs and cats, rescue centres everywhere, but it's not going to stop people breeding litters of dogs and cats. It won't. It's a very divisive topic, and you sort of like need. I think that's why it's good to have a debate about it without sort of preaching things to people, because everyone's entitled to their opinion on it.
Yeah, of course.
And I think I've aired mine anyway.
Yeah, I found the topic that they said, going back to where this all stemmed from, is I just find it interesting how hobbies with the animals is so similar with wild caught captive breeding and stuff like that. And, it's an interesting topic, and you don't really see it talked about too much. And like you said, it's a controversial topic where it can get heated. But as a hobby in general, we're responsible for our own hobby because, we could end up like with the fears of the Lacey Act with America. We could end up with lockdown, a novice random guy. I need to stop saying novice. Didn't have any experience with keeping reptiles, had a monocle cobra. That cobra escaped, they found it dead. So the government banned
I remember that.
snakes. You can't even have a hognose. You can't have any Poecitheria. So a massive breeder in Hannes' town had to get rid of all of his Poecitheria, which he's been breeding for 15 years. Had to get rid of them, or let them die out, unfortunately, because he wasn't allowed to further breed them. No anything venomous, pretty much. It's stuff like that we need to keep that message out there of just being, dig a little further and not just get something because it's cheap.
It's definitely a community-driven hobby. So as long as the community is wholesome and the fact that the people in it are good people, I think that the message will be held up by everybody involved. And I do agree, Charlie, to a certain degree on that. I don't think all poor pet keepers will let stuff die because it's cheap. I think sometimes people are just of the opinion that if it hasn't cost them a lot, then it almost I mean, you say poor pet keeper, it's almost like terrible human. But sometimes it is what it is. It's like maybe they don't mean it the way they say it. Maybe that if a spider passes away, it's okay, I'll get another one because that was cheap. It didn't cost me a lot. Not because they don't care for the animal. It's just it's readily available and it's they can replace it. Yeah. Maybe they did care for it, but they don't care for it in the right way. Yeah.
I get upset when it doesn't matter. Like I work with wild caught, and with wild caught, there's a lot of random sudden deaths. I have perfectly healthy looking specimens just drop, and it's not because of disease. It's just maybe just old or something going wrong inside. I've had, for example, one of the most annoying things that happened to me last year was pairing the Thelcopsis species gold blacks, which is black and gold huntsmans. I've got them on my Instagram page as the YouTube video of me rooting out the female. I was so excited to get this pair, and the fact that talking to a few peeps in the UK, that the pictures I have of the male pairing with the female is probably the first ever documented, and that's just going through papers of the spider in general and just not finding any pictures of them pairing. So I was really, really excited. And then just to find the female dead a couple days later.
Oh shit!
It's hard, and not just because it's like, oh, I can just buy another one and stuff like that. It's getting so close yet so far away from having that success. Yeah. It's got, and even if she wasn't a pairing project, I'd just be upset anyways because it's not a common spider, and it's one I've wanted for a long time just because I like the look of it. Black and gold look nice.
Yeah, definitely sound cool.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes to the characters of the people, and I think when you sort of have you have people that are either very empathetic and also people who are quite sensitive about like life in general. Like, you know, me personally, I get very up and down with regards to if a spider passes and this, that, and the other, or mantis, or whatever I've got. And I think for me that's a good thing because it makes every decision I have to sort of, you know, go one way or the other with. I debate it quite seriously in my head before I go and either way with what I'm doing with regards to either buying a new spider or giving a spider up for pairing or whether or not I'm going to pair them myself or whatever. And I think that type of, you know, we have it when spiders pass away. I beat myself up left, right, and centre for a couple of days. Sort of, was it me? Did I do? I think can be quite healthy thing to go through as a process because it almost shows that you care because you're going through the whole checklist of all the things that was it you? Did you do anything? Was it this? Was it that? Was the other? And I think if you don't go through that process, you don't learn from it because you may find out that it was something you maybe didn't do right. Or you'll come to the conclusion that it wasn't you, it was just one of those things. And at the end of the day, you'll still learn from that experience. And I think that's quite a healthy process to go through. People who don't have that tend to be the ones who just maybe then just go straight out the next day and pick up another one of the same spider, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I get that, Bastian. I understand that.
I think for me, it's that frustrating motivation to try that again, try the projects again. You know, with Piloctonus hematosoma, for example, I'm not sure that the pairing was successful, but I didn't sell the slings as captive bred simply because I didn't get to take a picture of the pairing or see it because by the time he got in and he was there for maybe 10 minutes, I just turned away for a second and bam, the female grabbed him. So I don't know if she was already paired before coming in. So I'll be brutal and won't sell them as captive bred unless I know. And you know, those kind of frustrations want me to do it again. Same thing with the Thelcopsis. When they come up again, I'm gonna definitely try again and harder. Learn from my. If I get to work with Holconia again, I'll know to pull it a little bit earlier than I left it for. You know, it's these things that if I didn't experience it, I don't think I would be where I am right now with, you know, motivations to carry on breeding no matter what. Even it can be very frustrating sometimes. I don't record my pairings because I swear a lot. You know, especially with wolf spiders.
Yep.
Those males don't want to stay in those enclosures because they know what they're going up against and they want to run around.
Yeah, I do think lockdowns had a lot to do with it. I think that changed the whole playground in a lot of respects to regards to what people did. There was a lot of people who made lockdown purchases. You're right. Companions while there was no human interaction, which I totally get. And to be fair, if it did those people kept them going through lockdown with their mental health and things like that, then I can understand that. But if you make a commitment to something, I'm a true believer that even if you've made a commitment to something that you really don't want to be involved in anymore, you should still do the best by that, whether it's actually trying to find a perfect replacement home for that or keeping it and caring for it until it passes. I don't think, you know, you have to, but this is just characters of human beings as well. You know, I think it goes to that really. It's like if you've got a good character, then you'll do the right thing by a lot of things you come across, you know. I mean, this is why I'm actually quite nervous to pair the Avix at the moment. I'm meant to be doing it this week, and potentially Thursday or Friday they're still going to get paired. But I'm quite nervous at the moment because I've got eyes on me. I've got eyes on me with this male, and she's come out of her molt with a little bit of feistiness in her, and I want to make sure that this male does the job and doesn't just go in there and become lunch. You know, it's quite a, and I think the pressure's on me, and I know it. I know the person. I know the person whose male it is won't worry either way because they know full well I'll do my best, but that doesn't mean that the pressure's not on me because of how high regard I hold this person in. Like, so for me, the pressure's there whether or not they tell me that I shouldn't have it or not. So yeah, it's quite an important one as well, this one. Isn't it, Jay?
Yeah. But no, I get what you mean with that. But I think it'll be a good breeding project, though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping it'll be successful. She's. I think there's this other thing as well, like with regards to that. And Charlie, if Charlie's still in chat, he might have sort of an opinion on this as well. As far as breeding goes, sometimes there's a lot to be said for an unsuccessful sack from a female being her first sack. That then, when she then gets the opportunity to produce a second sack from a second pairing, it can produce a lot of a healthier set of babies because she's already been through the process once.
Yep.
I can't remember where I read all this, but from what I understand, there's a lot of evidence to show that second time round, a female producing a sack again can have a lot more positive sort of end result.
Oh dear.
That's kind of like a common
Well, I suppose-
occurrence with animals as well, isn't it?
I mean, lots of animals are kind of similar.
Yeah.
In that, like the first go at producing offspring of any kind, it's all a bit hit and miss. However primitive an animal it is, it's still got to be a bit of a learning curve for them.
Apart from firstborn children, they're always the best, honestly.
Uh-huh.
Agree with that. I mean, if you take chickens as an example, I've kept a lot of chickens. I used to raise a lot of chickens. You get a lot of what they call, they got various names. They call them fairy eggs and all sorts of things, but they're tiny little things. Or you get most double yolk eggs you get are from young hens that have recently started laying, and it's all part of their system getting used to the process of producing and laying eggs.
All right, okay.
So I guess that's them coming to terms and their body getting used to their reproduction. So if it happens, that kind of stuff happens with chickens, you're gonna get variations of how any female deals with that process, I guess.
Yeah. So a lot of avian animals do have that kind of thing, especially with animals that mate for life. You'll see the differences with like how successful a clutch of eggs will be. Sometimes they'll go away for too long and those eggs don't hatch, or maybe one hatches and it's stunted, but then the next season comes along and they have 3 healthy chicks.
Yeah.
A lot of mammals will have a baby. It could die. It wouldn't not underfed, or she wasn't getting enough nutrients for that milk to be good for the baby.
Yep.
It's all kind of factors.
Helen's raised an interesting point here, or she's got a question regarding the avics, right? So what does the morph mean? Well, you obviously have various species in the Avicularia genus. You have the Avicularia, you have the Purpurae, you have various other ones, but then you have ones that are like, I think this has come from one of my recent videos where I was talking about the Avic metallica, which is now not a separate species. They've now decided it's morph 6 of the Avicularia. There are regional variations of the same spider. They're the same species, they just have a slightly different look to them. So the morph types for the Avicularia, there are a number of morphs which are the same spider, they just have a regional variation of that spider, is my understanding of the best way to put it, really.
Yeah, pretty much that, because they come from similar, I think they all come from a range, and within that range they found specific corners of said range. And I think from when did the paper come out? Years ago now, wasn't it?
Which one?
Years. The morphotypes, when that first came out, that was a years ago now.
I'm gonna have to go. I'm absolutely shattered.
Are you off, Jackie?
Yeah, I am. I'm absolutely knackered.
Right,
My eyes
go and
just
get some sleep. Go and get some sleep, and we'll catch
Okay,
up later. Cheers,
Yeah,
Jackie.
catch you all later. Okay. See you
All right,
later.
See you.
Bye. Love yous. Bye.
Bye.
But I think through genetic testing, they found out that these AVICs are all similar. I don't even know if those scientific names were just given to them by hobbyists, or whether it was a classification all on its own.
It's
Because for a paper
strange.
like this to put 6 spiders together, or is it 6, or is there more? I don't know.
I'm not sure if it's 6 or 7.
Something like that, yeah. And 6 individual species to be all classified into one, it had to be something going on there.
It's very strange because I've only seen the avicularia and then the M6, and the M6 looks vastly different. In fact, you look at something like the is it the purpurae, the avicularia purpurae, or the one with beginning with P?
Yeah, I've got one of them.
That looks more like an avicularia than the Morph 6 looks like an avicularia. It's strange. It's got such a red setae, the M6. It does look like a different spider. And I'm sure it's just that the genus is a mess. Like a lot of genus in the spider hobby is a mess. I'm pretty sure that this is possibly just it needs tidying up. And you'll probably find that they reclassify the M6 as a separate species again at some point. I wouldn't be surprised if a few of those morphs end up different species.
Yeah.
So yeah, be careful what you breed if you're breeding avics. Make sure you know what you've got.
Bit of history of them, if you can.
Yeah. Is there not one in here with a bloody damn Versi? I've got a Versi.
I don't have any at the moment.
Not at the moment.
I've got 2 actually. I've got 2 in my care. One of them's mine and one of them's Caitlin's. But yes, I have 2 Versis at the moment.
I've got a Versi.
You've got a nice size Versi, haven't you?
Mm.
Yeah.
Again, those used to be avicularia.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's quite funny because you look at the Carabiner Versi, which everyone knows. If you then look at the Carabiner Lieta, how that has been classified into the same genus as a Versi is beyond me, because there's virtually no colour to it.
Yeah.
It becomes a very brown spider.
Yeah.
But also its whole mannerisms, like it is, whereas a Versi will come out, be happy to wander, be nice and calm, docile, take food off your hand or whatever, give it little tummy rubs, whatever you want to do with a Versi. The Lieta would literally put a noose around your neck and hang you from a tree if it could. They are violent little things. Yeah. The Lietas.
I've just had to move mine up.
What, the
into a bigger
Lieta?
enclosure. Yeah.
Yeah. They're feisty, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. They've got a lot of fun. I mean, my one fret pose is quite a fair bit. It's got a lovely setup, webbed it really heavy, but you go near it with food or water or anything like that, it gives you the middle finger.
How I'd keep me alive.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, exactly. How dare you give me sustenance? Yeah, they're funny little things, they are.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to what the hobby has in store for the next few years, just to see further developments. I mean, with talks of the Xenepsis and the Phevictopus genuses being looked into, that's going to be really interesting to see whether all these fancy Phevictopus are all just Cancerides localities, or if all these Xenepsis are just ending up being intermedia localities or something like that. That would just be really interesting.
I think that's probably what will happen though when they look into it.
Yeah, that's the main thing.
The thing is, with scientists and researchers, if they didn't reclassify stuff, then they'd do it once and everyone would be out of a job and they'd have to go and stack shelves at supermarkets, wouldn't they? So it's in their interest to reclassify stuff. I do apologise to anyone who's involved in research or classification of spiders or any other animals. My intentions are pure, honestly. It's quite interesting, like the way that they go through all this stuff. Connor's going through it at the moment, like with obviously the uni stuff and things. He was doing a project on hairs and hormones in spiders' feet.
Wow.
And how the different ones have different reasons for hormone release and stuff like that, and how it affects what they can hold on to and stuff like that. And that's got some implications with regards to classification as well, apparently.
Do you know, it was you mentioning that before, which is why with my plan to breed the OBTs, there was a bit of her old molt in there, and a bit of it was the foot. So I took the foot out and I've put it in with a male in the hope that there's pheromones on there that gets him going.
Oh, okay. Probably will be, to be honest with you. They do have secretion from their feet. A lot of people think that they have their sticky pads, but I mean, I've got some really good footage, really close-up footage of the Sturmy while it was on its back the other day, of the hooks, because even the terrestrial spiders will have hooks on their feet. They come out almost like they look like cats' feet for a lot of respects. Like they have their paw, and then they have their retractable claws within their paw. You see it on Salma Pierce quite heavily, which is one of the reasons why, you hear reports of people saying they're getting stuck on the exo meshes because they have quite pronounced claws. But the Sturmy, I couldn't believe it. They were a good couple of mil long out of its feet wipes on its back. They're quite big. Could scratch you, I reckon, if you wanted to. If you didn't fancy using its fangs.
I'd rather get a scratch.
Yeah, toe beans.
I think so.
Exactly.
Because like what Connor's studying it's similar to like I was talking about with Scott on Fridays. Bart Coppins. You guys don't know who Bart Coppins is. He is a hobbyist now being invited out to various countries to study their Lepidoptera, which are butterflies and moths. And that's just through him posting papers of his findings in hobby.
That's
and
cool.
He's currently in Uganda, and he was in Brazil a few months ago.
You don't have to be qualified to write a research paper.
No.
You only have to, for it to be published, it has to be peer reviewed by people who is my understanding.
I think so.
So, it's and peer review is normally just a fact of them saying, yes, generally we agree on this principle. There's nothing in the paper that we could argue with. So it's a consensus of the agreement that basically this is fact at that point in writing. And papers are then published. And they get a scientific journal number and they go into the logs.
Yeah, it's just like
interesting.
Doing is like in Brazil, he set up breeding farms, which for Lepidoptera is quite easy. It's just a big mesh enclosure where you can keep the caterpillars from getting attacked by predators and etc. with the butterflies and moths. And he was breeding stuff that is rare, has very little research on, and he's discovering their full life cycles and documenting it down. And that's fascinating. I'd love to do that. Not with Lepidoptera, for me personally. I don't. Again, you guys all know my consensus on food plants. I bloody hate them. But with true spiders, that'd be so cool. Could you imagine?
Yeah, and this is where like Connor's got huge opportunities at the moment. He's got he's not sure which one or whether he's going to be able to do it yet, because obviously money's a huge factor. But he has the opportunity to either go and do venomization in Arizona with rattlesnakes. Or he goes out to India to do effectively frogs and pokies, or the spectacled bears in the cloud forests of Ecuador.
Oh, those are so good options. Oh my god.
Yeah. So if we can find the funds, But and there was another one as well. One of them was something primatology studies in Africa somewhere. But
I love that. Oh my god.
Crazy. It's like to think that the opportunities that exist for some people these days is like unbelievable, really. But at the end of the day, it's as a parent, you want to try and give them everything they can. I mean, you'll probably end up coming out like a lot of people from university, coming home and just don't know what he'll end up doing as a job. But he may fall on his feet, may get lucky, and may end up out there doing some studies and stuff. And if he never comes home again, good for him.
That's the dream, man. Just go into the niche that you enjoy the most and just make it.
It was so funny. When he went to uni, he was like, I do not want to become the spider guy. But he's gone there, and unfortunately become the spider guy because his lecturers know that he has spiders, and they know that he sort of, and all his stuff that he's done so far on projects have been to do with spiders. Like he's done like morphology, and he's done stuff to do with their feet. He's now doing stuff to do with biodiversity stuff. He is doing something on aquatics, something to do with the effects of urbanization on aquatic populations in India.
Wow.
Which is like a bit of a specialist type of project for a first year student, but yeah.
Yeah. But again, interesting nonetheless. I mean, the urbanization of India has a lot of
Run into an Ewok. Spectacle bears do look like Ewoks as well, actually, a little bit. They've got the little rings around their eyes, haven't they?
Or what the Ewoks then? Like, how far is India? Just crazy.
He's quite lucky. One of his lecturers is the guy who does is it Deadly 60? What's his name?
Steve Bagshaw.
That's it. He's the one of the lecturers at Bangor University.
No way.
Yeah. I've told Connor he needs to become very good friends with him so we can get him on a live.
Yes.
Yeah.
That would be just like the dream, wouldn't it?
Because I don't think even with like the bigger podcasts and streams, I don't think he's been on any. So
No.
name.
He's too big for that. He does BBC and National Geographic, mate.
Yeah. So we need to get him on and pick his brain.
They've also got one of the top reptile guys over at Bangor University as well as one of the lecturers. He's someone Phil looks up to. I can't remember the guy's name, but he's like one of the top reptile study guys.
Private collection as well. Was that someone else?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. They've got their own. They've got a snake collection at the university, which the students have access to, but the public don't. But then they also have a natural history museum there as well. They've got quite a bit of stuff there, but they've got rattlesnakes and things like that there. You've got DWA, yeah. Got an awful lot of stuff
Or do they have other DWA stuff as well?
I'm not sure. I think it's just snakes. I think it's possibly just snakes, but they do have. they've got a lot of variety of roaches and things like that there as well. So because there's an awful lot people can learn from roaches. Funny little things. Colonies of roaches have a huge implication for a lot of other stuff, apparently.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one weird thing is that roaches are so close to mantids. They're practically very, very close on the evolutionary, very close. And when you take a good look at a mantis from an aerial view in comparison to a roach, you can see the simulations, the eye formation, the wings. Roaches
are just big boned mantises, aren't they? You know, they've gone on the fast food diets as opposed to.
They
have very similar legs, I suppose. At the front, they're just missing the mandibles, aren't they? Effectively.
But even then, their mouths are very similar as well.
Their heads very much so.
Pretty much. It's just diets are very different. I'd just be terrified to see what a giant mantis would have looked like back in the day if that were a thing back then.
Oh, that would be awesome, wouldn't it? Get Connor to a tour video. It'd be interesting to see if he'd be allowed to do something like that. I know Charlotte's at the same university. Charlotte Smith, she's over at the same university as Connor. Okay. So she's been there, I think, a year longer. So she may have a little bit more knowledge of what they actually got there.
I can ask my friend who's there as well. She studies there too.
Wait, who's that? Like what's she doing?
Zoology.
Oh, is she? Who's that?
My college. Jodie. Yeah, she's in the second year now.
Oh, right. Okay. It'd be interesting because Connor sort of mixes with a few of the older students and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see if he sort of knows who that is or whatever. I'm actually going back out there in a couple of weeks, so
I'll ask her. Cool. She says, especially with the DWA and stuff. I'll see if I can.
Yeah. That'd be cool.
Oh, I won on Mitch's giveaway, and one of the people who I won a prize off got in touch with me yesterday.
Oh yeah.
And they turned around and they said, "Can I ask, is that Doug and your mum on your photo?" And I said, "Yeah. Why did you know Doug?" He says, "Yeah, I was a good friend with him." No. And it turned out when my mum and my brother lived in Wales, they got to know Canned, I think her name is, and her other half.
Oh, Can
I'm
Birkins.
living.
Photography.
Sorry, who, Jeremy?
Can Birkins? Is she takes macro
Yeah,
photography?
that's the one. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
They got to know my brother when he lived in Wales, and I knew nothing about it until
No
they
way.
mentioned it on a message. And I thought, how weird is that?
That's it's. I'd say it's strange when those sort of things happen, isn't it? And people are like,
Yeah,
yeah.
I knew him for a number of years, and until they both passed away. So, you know, it was
It's a
just
much
strange.
smaller world than we take into consideration.
Yeah.
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 That's what I said. What a small world.
It's really strange when those sort of things happen. It's like, I've been sat chatting to Natalie at times, like in the bug hut, and people have come in and they're like, wander off, and then Natalie a couple of says, "Oh, that person constantly like they know you from your YouTube stuff," and it's like when you think you've got 1,000 people who watch you globally, and then someone down the road actually watches your videos and stuff. It's like it's weird, isn't it? It is just weird.
That was the weirdest. That was the weirdest I ever had happen. Was when I was stuck in that motorway traffic, and the motorway had come to a complete standstill, and somebody in the car at the side of me was tapping, and I put my window down. I put theirs. I said, "Is everything all right?" And they said, "Yeah, we watch you on YouTube." And I thought, "Oh my God, what's the flipping chances of that?"
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, she said, "You're the spider guy," and she said, "We watch you on YouTube." And I thought, bloody hell, stuck on a motorway, and that happens.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Have you ever had anything like that, Jeremy?
Well, not with someone random, but you know, during lockdown when I wasn't really like super big on YouTube or anything. This was like when I was first taking the videos and stuff seriously. Marina, she lives like 40 minutes away from me, and I was asking for a male mantis, and she so happened to have one. And when I met her again at C's last year to buy some scorplings off her, she was like, "Oh, it's you. Do you not remember me?" I'm like, "Where do I know you from?" She's like, "Yeah, I came to your house." Like, when the hell did you come to my house? I was like, yeah, she was like, "I'm the one who gave you those 2 mantas," and it just clicked. I was like, "No way, you're that same person."
That's Marina, who was at
C's.
Phil's, at Phil's show.
The invert shows with the Raphael instead of
Yeah,
Rachel.
yeah. She does the raffles. Yeah. She's nice. She's a nice person.
When I realized that, I was like, "There's no way. That's so weird that we've met each other prior and now we're like good friends now."
That's crazy, isn't it? What about you, Joe? You had anything like that?
Only from Pornhub.
What?
No one knows me on YouTube.
But where was the other site?
Pornhub.
So you're a big name on there then, yeah?
Not just a big name, Jeremy.
Oh, Jesus Christ, Jay.
But no, not from YouTube, unfortunately. At shows, people have, yeah. But that's
Thanks for derailing the stream there in one fell swoop. Oh my God! I think the weirdest one I had was I had one of my friends who I grew up with. I've known them since I was like 5 years old, and they messaged me not so long ago and said, "You keep spiders, don't you?" Like, because they're friends with me on Facebook and stuff, and I've known them for like I've probably known them 40 years. And I said, "Yeah, I do, yeah." And they said, "Oh, what's your YouTube name?" Like, so I told them, and they said, "Oh, yeah, no, you are the person." I'm like, "What do you mean?" It's like, "Oh yeah, my daughters come home and were showing us these TikToks and were like absolutely fascinated by these time lapses." And I said, "I'm sure I know who that person is." And like, apparently it was like I gave this girl. She said, "You've now given me huge street cred with my daughters because I know the person whose TikTok this is that they're watching," which was quite funny. I thought, it's like, don't know why it would give her street cred, but her kids were like overly excited the fact that the people they watch on TikTok were their mum's friend at school.
Do you know, I do find it nice of all the comments. I mean, I appreciate anybody that comments on my videos, but if my mum sends a comment, if my mum comments on something, that kind of means a lot because I know that she's watching what I'm doing, and she doesn't like spiders, but she gives a shit enough to want to see what I'm up to.
Yeah.
Oh, my mum's the same. My mum hates night. No. Kath says good night.
Night, Kath.
Night, Kath. Hey, how's your leg?
Good, thank you.
Good.
Good.
Come on. Thank you, Helen. I really appreciate that. That's awesome. Honestly, thank you so much.
Hello.
You can't see me, can you? You all right?
Is it healing up nice now?
Yeah, it's all good now.
Good.
Yeah.
Or are you just saying that?
It's fine. It's fine. I just not allowed to drive yet.
Well, you do. You drive Matt at a wall.
Oh. He's not exactly missed out on anything, have you? Since I've been laid up.
Good job, he loves you.
Somebody's got to do it.
It would have been nice to have shared some of the 1,600 miles that I had to drive over Christmas, but hey ho.
I could have come as a passenger, but
Yeah.
You was lucky, Kathy. You got out of that one.
Didn't she? I was absolutely
Well
shattered
done.
that week. Absolutely shattered that week. But no, she should be driving next week, I think, isn't it?
well, you're on days on Saturday, Sunday.
Hopefully. Good luck anyway,
Yeah.
Kathy.
Yeah, she'll be driving next week. Yeah. Well,
Okay, night then.
Right, good night.
yes, it's but yeah, no, my mum's the same. My mum hates my mum has a huge irrational fear of anything small, like rats, mice, spiders, anything like that, which is probably where I had the spider thing from anyway. But yeah, she still will watch the stuff. Which it does mean a lot because I know how strongly she dislikes them,
Well, see, with my mum, she likes dogs. She likes birds. My granddad used to race pigeons, so she's grown up with all that sort of stuff. But as a kid, she hates snakes, but she let me get a corn snake because she knows how into animals I am. She hates rats, but she let me get rats because she knew that I really wanted them.
Right.
And she's been really supportive.
That's good. It's nice with a family like that.
I mean, just look behind me. Like that's just the parent support right there. It's just allowing me to make the garage. And, I could have gone about it differently and told them I was getting predatory inverts rather than just slowly sneaking them in my room, and then they realized you have too many enclosures now, Jeremy. Then that led to the shelving above my bed, and then, just stacking, and then here we are. Appreciate
Thanks, Leah. But yeah, it is good. I mean, support comes in all shapes and sizes from different people, I suppose. Like, it's just nice that we've got a community of friends that do support each other. It's a nice group we've got going on, I think.
Have you got your teapot set for your shelving yet?
No, I told you guys, if Craig comes up on a stream, the ancient comes up on a stream, then I will put a teapot behind every video, but he won't do it, so I'm not doing it. I said that on multiple streams now as well. So the day that Craig the ancient comes up and figures out that it's not just cave art drawings, actually comes up on a stream and it's not just a rock.
I think 2024, you might be surprised. I think 2024 is going to be the year Craig reveals himself. He's going to have to when he hits 1,000. He did say he's going to come up. He's going to come up on screen at some point in his videos. He just doesn't. Like anything, he does his videos his way. He doesn't talk over the top or anything. But
just
he's
hand thing. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Doing Exotic Slayer.
he's just the way he does he's like he does them with the music. He does his rehouses. I think he's just highly nervous, like a lot of people are. It's weird the amount of people who do YouTube videos that are actually very, very nervous of being on screen.
Oh God! Just look at the videos from when I first started. I was so robotic because I was just like trying not to shake my phone. And oh God, don't watch my old videos, please. Don't.
I'll tell you, for people. Go on, Mark. Sorry.
I used to never wanted to do a YouTube channel, and because I went on a couple of Pete's.
Yep.
He kept saying you need to do your own channel, and I says, oh yeah, I says I'd be lucky if I got 50 subscribers.
And look at where you are now.
Yeah.
I I wasn't going to do it. I like the editing side of it. I do like making videos because I used to do it a lot for like BMX, and stuff like that. And editing's always, but I like the technical side of editing. But being on camera, I was like, no, I'm not going to do this. But Scott actually convinced me to do a video, and I think my first video was the comparison between Mantis Den, Spooder Nest, and Spider Shop acrylic enclosures, the differences and stuff like that. Watch it back now, it's like, oh, it's one of my highest watched videos. Not just because of the length of time, but the amount of people who actually want to know where you can get the different ones from. But yeah, it's crazy the amount of people who don't tend to want to be on screen, and it does take a while to get used to actually feeling comfortable in front of a camera. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So I do get it from like some people who want to make videos where they don't have to be on screen and do it, just music and things like that. But you find your own way of doing things, and if you enjoy it, that's the main thing, isn't it?
So I like it. I like talking. Originally, like going on a live petrified me, but I now find that if I'm on a live, I've got people to talk to. It's a lot easier than me trying to find things to say or remember what I'm supposed to be saying when I'm recording a video.
Helen, nobody likes the way that they look. Everybody's their own worst critic. Honestly, you'd be fine. Stumbling over words. The amount of outtakes that I could, if I wanted to do a video of outtakes, it'd be quite interesting, because the amount of times I've got a case of I'm sitting there and I'll say something and I'll go, oh, and here we've got the blah, 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 off, fuck, and off. And then it'll be the next one, do it again. And it'll be about 5 or 6 takes. And you end up sitting there, and then you'll get the perfect take. And then all of a sudden, as I'm coming to the last sentence, my Jack Russell will be like, yap, 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 yap. And I'm like, rage. And you have to record the whole thing again. I've got a fair few of those, that's for sure.
And I've got a lot where I just forget what I'm saying. And I literally I have so much footage of me staring into a corner of the room. I can hear my brain working, just trying to remember what I was even thinking about, let alone talking about.
Yep.
And, I've probably got an hour's worth of me staring into the corner of a room, just trying to remember what my life consists of.
There's a lot to be said for that, Jackie, keeping the mistakes in, for sure. It's like, it's weird. I had one where I was I think it was today's video where it was the H Pulk piece, where I said, they regenerate their legs via the process of regeneration. It sounds stupid, but it's actually scientifically correct, because they do regenerate. The actual process is called regeneration. There's not like another term for it. I was trying to find what the actual name was for their leg growth after losing a limb, and there is no other. It is just regeneration.
Yeah,
so it sounded silly in my head when I did it, but it's actually the correct terminology. So the sentence sounds silly when you listen to it on video, but it's actually correct. But there are an awful lot of me just going blah 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 blah, and then I'm just going to I've got recordings where I haven't cancelled it, and I'm just sitting there screaming at the camera like, "Why are you so stupid? Why can you not get words out?" Yeah.
I have the same things on my phone, dude. My compilations of me just swearing and just, for fuck's sake, I said it again. There was a period of my first videos where I would say something and I go like that after. And I really hated that when I listened back to the footage. So I had to try so long. And I'd record the perfect intro and everything. And then I listen to it. All I hear is, and also,
Okay, so I've got a very sensitive microphone. I've got a Rode mic that goes on top of the brand's called Rode. They make a lot of high level microphones and stuff like that. So I've got one on my camera that I use. Unfortunately, it's very sensitive, and as you can probably see from the size of this, and my whole nose is buggered. Rugby took its toll on my face when I was a teenager, and my nose has been smashed up more times than I care to remember. So when I'm sitting there in the dead silence of the bathroom and I'm breathing, a lot of the time you can hear it. And I hear it when I'm editing, and I hate it. But I either do that or I hold my breath and die, or I breathe through my nose. And it's awful because I always sound like I've got a cold. The other thing that I hate is when I say so a lot. I sit there, and if you watch my videos now, you won't be able to unhear it, where I sit there on videos and I say, so yeah, so yeah, so yeah. Phil won't mind me saying, but Phil's got a very unique thing that he says a lot of the time. He says "sort of thing," and you'll pick up on it. He says it a lot. I think it's not necessarily like because you don't know what to say. It's more almost like a nervous like twitch that you've got verbally. That tends
Mine
to
is
come out.
I say a lot.
Yep.
Even when I know what I'm talking about, it's my way of kind of finishing what I'm saying and moving on to the next thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's so yeah is what I do. Yeah. Oh, the clicks. Yeah, I do like the click transitions. I do try and get those in when I can. Making the amount of work that goes into seamless transitions is actually far too much. If you knew what I actually had to do to get those clicks correct, it's ridiculous. I sit there and I will click, and I'll have my hand in a position. I'll do that, and then I have to keep my hand still, stop the video, take a photograph, do all the rehousing of stuff I've got to do, then look at the photograph and set everything back up exactly in frame that I had, make sure the lighting's the same, put my hand exactly overlaid on the photograph of where I had it, because I've got my photograph showing on the LED screen on my camera, and I can put my hand exactly where it was, then press record, click, and start again. It's a lot of work for a very tiny little transition. But that's the part of editing I enjoy, like that type of stuff. The one where you have the camera that sweeps down to the ground and then you have it come round from the ground or up from the ceiling back into the room and stuff like that. That fast moving camera, so it looks like a roll. Those are quite good ones. The people who sweep left and then you sweep into another room when you sweep left, you see them a lot on TikTok. The transitions, if you watch transitions quite a lot, but there's an awful lot of work goes into it. There's quite a lot of involvement with a lot of transition stuff.
Yeah, I think Richard from the Tarantula Collective was saying that how he sometimes spends almost up to an hour just editing one transition.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, when you see my stuff, you know how when I go from like footage of me talking to a footage of my spider?
Yeah.
The camera, you might have a bit of like what they call lens burn, where you get the reds and the yellows and stuff like that come up and it fades off across to the next shot. That's all done manually. I don't use CapCut or anything like that. I don't use any special apps. I literally do that all manually in Power Director with color changes and gradients and stuff like that. It's all to do with overlaying footage of old cameras and old footage and stuff like that I've taken, and actually I then overlay it and have it at certain opacity throughout the transition, and I have to adjust it as I go through. It takes far too long.
I don't have the knowledge or the patience to even think about doing something like that.
The thing is, I do it on autopilot now because I know what I'm doing with it. But it's a case of those. I don't mind spending the time on those things, because if people notice them, it would mean I'm doing them wrong. The transitions that you don't notice are the things that are done well, because the whole point is it's transitioning from one to the next. Like when you watch films and they go from one scene to another scene, if it's seamless and you don't really notice that they've jumped scenes, then the person who's editing the film has done the perfect job. That's the whole point of a transition. It's supposed to be seamless. So even though they are the ones that that's where I put the most effort into my videos, they should be the least seen or noticed thing of the video.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that's where the nerd in me comes out, because I like all that type of stuff, all that technical side of things. But trying to think up new ways to do it is quite difficult.
I love the idea of doing more technical stuff, but my brain does not work that way.
Yeah.
But your videos are a different style of video, though, Mark. Your videos are more of a like Scott always says. You feel like you're sitting there on your shoulder while you're videoing and doing your rehouse and stuff. It's a very like wholesome style video, and that's what people are attracted to on your videos.
I was going to say I wouldn't have a clue about editing. I know how to put the subscribe, the like, and the bell, and that's it.
Even that can be quite difficult. I mean, I move mine around onto different parts of my videos depending on what I'm putting it over at the time. But yeah, I have to change the size, the green screen, and all sorts with those things. With that, it's quite a lot involved there as well. But I prefer doing that side of things than the rest of it. So it's each to their own, I think. Each to their own.
Everyone's a bit different. There's no point copying.
Sorry, what was that?
I said first time I've seen Jeremy without his glasses.
There we go. You right, Jay? Disappeared for a moment.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah, my glasses on my face 24/7. Otherwise, I can't see.
No, mate.
Jeremy was one of the first people I subscribed to. I was watching Jeremy and Dark Den was the two video people I was watching when I first. Yeah, it was. And the first video I ever watched of Jeremy, honestly, me and Connor, I feel guilty for saying this. We were laughing because it was. I felt so sorry for Jeremy on this video. It was his pickups from BTS, and yeah, he didn't like the tubs. Let's say that.
You know, I was wearing so much after I stopped recording. I was like, "This is like,
Good night, Dan.
take it easy."
No.
No.
But yeah,
And thank you so much for becoming a member, buddy. That's awesome. Appreciate it.
shout out to Sam from the Bug Man Sam. But my lord, I bloody hated that tub, Sam. If you're listening.
It was the fact you were trying to do everything one-handed. I think you had the camera in your other hand, and I think you sort of you didn't have a tripod. That's for sure.
I think I either broke it
Night, Helen.
on my way to the BTS hotel, broke
You're
it
not going.
coming home because I had so much shit with me.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It was a good video though. There's some nice pickups. It was just quite unfortunate the fact that the tub got crushed while you were trying to put the lid on.
Just the way it concaved in itself. I was just like, God's sake.
Yeah. The animal was okay though, wasn't it? It was all fine. It was just the fact that the tub sort of caved in on one side.
I think it was a salad tub, wasn't it? And I was just trying to close it, and I think it was just not catching. I just
it was funny because at the time the reason I think I was watching yours because we were talking about this, Jay. I think where Dark Den at the time was in his old flat living room, and he had just got into it, and he was doing rehouses on his desk, and it was almost like what Mark's videos are like now, like with his rehouses at home, doing all that, and that's how Dark Den's videos used to be, almost like that. And Jeremy's were very much like that same feel, like someone who was quite passionate about the hobby, and just wanted to share his experiences at the time with it. And I think that's what attracted me to those videos in the first place, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was funny. It was funny because then I stopped watching all videos for a little while, and then I got back I started then watching Scott's stuff and Mark's stuff, and then gradually sort of fell back in. And I watched. Then I met Jeremy, and then realised he was the person who we was watching the videos of back in when I first got my first spider. It's strange.
so weird. But in a good way though, you know. It's just nice to know that, you know, it's I still find it so surreal, especially at Brighton, how many people came up to me and being like, oh, a friend of mine watches your videos, they recommended me to come over and check you out. And then, you know, oh, I've seen you on YouTube, I follow you on Instagram. And even just random comments will just pop up. Like the other day that I had someone being like, oh yeah, you were the very first person I subscribed to, and I realized this was your reel when it suggested to me on Instagram. Like, no way. Like, someone's watching me and from my videos are being inspired to keep stuff as well. It's like this person is now keeping Homodeus Gladiator from my video and saying that my setup for the Homodeus Gladiator has been perfect because their pair is pairing now. So it's like,
that's cool.
It's a surreal experience. And
what competition did you win of Dark Dens, Helen?
Oh, was it that T-shirt one where you gave away a T-shirt and some stickers?
Leah, I've watched your videos since we met and became friends. There we go. And I still watch your videos. They're good videos.
I was watching your videos when you first set it up, your communal, Leah, all those years ago in like 2019 when I was binging invert content before I went to Brighton to know what to expect. And blew my expectations up. No, Homoderus.
So, do you remember the first person that ever came up to you and said, "Hi, I'm so and so. I watch your videos"?
It was at the BTS actually, and it was
I don't.
apart from like other YouTubers and stuff, just like a casual general public subscriber. It was a little kid, and I bumped into him again last year. This was 2022 BTS. I was just wandering around, just having a look around at some feeders, and then the kid tapped me on the shoulder and went, "You Jeremy?" I was like, "Yeah." It's like, "Oh, I watch your videos, and like you've inspired me to do YouTube and stuff like that." And I was just sitting there like, "There's no way this kid is telling me that I've inspired him to start a YouTube channel." And then I saw him at, I think it was Bedford, and I was like, "Oh, how are you?" and stuff like that. And how's the YouTube coming along? And it was kind of a sad thing because he was like, "Oh, I'm getting picked on at school because they make fun of me for my videos." And I took him to the side. I was like, "Look, dude, you just do whatever you're passionate about." Like I was in college and my friends were like, "Oh, why are you doing YouTube?" and blah, 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 blah. I didn't care. I enjoyed doing it. And yeah, I sounded robotic and pretty much sound like nowadays, but do what you're passionate about. And again, for me, with everything I do in this hobby is to inspire others, whether that's someone just coming into the hobby or an inspiration for someone that's been keeping for a long time. Again, with breeding, I don't care about the money. I will give someone stuff. Like I'll do bundle deals for little kids because again, little kids are like the next generation of keepers. They're going to be carrying on this hobby after all of us are long gone. So to keep them inspired and keep the hobby going is, I don't care. It's like I gave him a tub of isopods. I probably could have made 30-40 quid on for $5. I don't care.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's like I mean, I know it's slightly different, but when people are sort of saying to me, "Oh, you can get £4 or £5 for the nymphs of these assassin bugs," it's like, well, I'd rather give them to my friends, to be honest with you. It's like I'm not bothered about that. I've got a roof over my head. I don't need to worry about that. That doesn't mean that every single person who wants assassin bugs is going to get them for free, because I have my friends, and then I have other people that may want to buy them off me. It's not because it's not about the money doesn't mean that I'm going to give away everything I own. But at the same time, people who I feel I want to do a nice gesture for, then I'll do that nice gesture. I think my first ever person that ever came up to me and said, "I watch your videos," they actually were quite nervous about coming up to me, and that was Kale and Andre.
No.
It was I think it was at Brighton not 2023, 2022 Brighton. And they were the first people to ever come up to me and say, "We watch your videos." Or it might have been at Bedford. It might have been a Bedford show, but then they met me at Brighton as well. Yeah, it was Bedford. And I think that was their first show they'd been to. And they said, "Oh, they'd watch me," and all this, that, and the other. But I think the best experience I had was at BTS. Hey, Jason. Yeah, it was BTS. I think I was on the Creatures from the North stand, and I had quite a few people come up and were looking. I was dealing with the adult spiders, and a lot of people were coming up looking at spiders. And when I sort of said to them, "Oh, what did you want? What were you looking at buying?" and they were like, "Oh, no, we've just come. Really, we just want to say hi to you," sort of thing. And then you get people say, "Oh, can I have a photograph?" Which is, I'll never understand that. It's nice, nice, but I don't get it. But to have grown adult men and women sort of want a photo with you is strange. The kids I get, because the kids, it's nice because you're inspiring them. But it's also nice with the adults. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a real good feel. But I don't. My brain doesn't compute it. But the amount of kids that come up at BTS was awesome. Yeah.
So
Who was that with, Blair? I can't remember.
Oh, hello.
it was like I remember how nervous I was. Just like when I went to Brighton in 2019. I was so nervous to talk to Sam. Like, honestly, I was like, I'm going to go talk to him. And I would start walking towards him. And I'm like, I'm going to go to the side. I'm just like all nervous in the corner, just like not talking to him. I'm pretty sure it kind of like I was a stalker, just following him for like probably a good 40 minutes. Like, just kind of build up the courage to go say hello to him. And then I didn't even get to say hello to Petco because I was just so nervous. I just didn't even go say hi to him. So when someone comes to me, I just remember how I felt back then. I have time for absolutely Could be 5 minutes, could be half an hour. Even with trading, like I always say in my video, I don't care if you don't buy me.
I can't even remember, my brain's not.
I love it. And, just giving my time to people and seeing them getting excited over saying hello to me, it's so weird sometimes, but in a good way.
How you doing, Jason? You okay?
Matt, you're muted.
I know I'm muted. It's all right. I'm just trying to talk to myself and talk to everyone else. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, one thing I will say from a person who makes videos point of view, what I find odd is when people come up and say, "Oh, hi, like Jeremy, how are you? I watch all your videos, blah 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 blah," or "Hi, I'm so and so," and you're like, you don't like you can see people in chat can see our face, but people on screen can't see people in chat's face, and you have to introduce yourself if you come and say hello. But honestly, if you feel nervous about coming and say hello to people, don't be silly, because we're just normal people. We just like put our hobby out there for everyone to see. Whether we're doing things right or incorrectly is up for
Thanks,
debate with
Jason.
everybody.
Appreciate that, mate.
But just normal people. And honestly, if you come up and say hello, you'll end up having an hour chat with us about spiders anyway, because obviously, we can talk the hind legs off a donkey. I was going to...
I think you got most of us, Emma.
Was that the first time we met, Matt? Was
yes.
it with you, Callum, and Steve, right? When I was eating with my friend, and you came over, and I was like so surreal. I was like, "Oh my god, it's you! I watched your video. This is Callum, Steve. I talked to you on the lives."
That's right. Yeah, we'd spoken online a few times. I think it was the first time we actually actually physically met, wasn't it? Last year at Seas.
The fish finger.
It was a year. Last year was a year for a lot of that, because then I met Jay for the first time when we went to Bristol. I took Jay over to Bristol. Obviously, when we was at Seas, we were chatting away, and obviously then I said to you about going down to Taunton, so I took you down to Taunton. So yeah, it was good. A lot of friendships forged last year. It was quite nice.
Oh yeah, last year was fantastic. Thank you. I don't know why people think I'm small. Why do people keep small? I don't get it. I'm not that small.
I'll tell you what didn't do you any favors. You were talking about a kid coming to tap you on the shoulder. If a kid can tap you on the shoulder, you're not that tall either.
I'm not tall. I'm 5'3".
It was really
4'5".
Do you remember?
4'5", for Christ's sake.
Do you remember at BTS, Jeremy? I came behind your store. Me and you were chatting for ages about something, and Kath sort of had to interrupt us because there was this little kid standing there, and we weren't sure whether the kid wanted to buy something or what it was. But basically, he wanted to have a picture with me, didn't he?
Yeah. He took a picture with me, and then he took a picture of you. I was like,
yeah, that was cool, because he'd been waiting for ages while me and you were chatting. He was just standing there, like we were oblivious to him. He was just standing on the other side of your stall for ages and ages and ages.
Yeah, he apparently
cool.
now.
Yeah.
Emma's little boys had a photo with most of us.
Yeah, down at Taunton the first time.
Yeah, and she just said it's amazing because he finds social situations really difficult. But Elliot's a lovely little lad.
Yeah,
really is a nice little lad.
I think it's the trouble is kids can be shits to each other. They really can. And like you were saying earlier, Jeremy, about that kid who was saying he was getting picked on at school for the fact he was doing YouTube and stuff. I think kids can just be arses. They really can to each other for no reason at all. But the trouble is, it's like, unfortunately, it'll put an awful lot of people off doing an awful lot of things. Being bullied is never a nice thing. That's for sure.
I was proper. I not going into it, but I was like really making a point of just do what you like to do. Realistically, this is all going to blow over. Like, I've had the same thing when I was in high school, you know, like,
Yeah.
and then now none of them are. I've no, I don't even remember.
Ah, is he there?
You know,
Yeah.
do strive for what you're passionate for, because that's what's going to make you happy. Don't make yourself look good for other people. Wish I told myself that back in the day, when I was trying to blend in with the crowd and, you know, be someone I wasn't.
Dude, right. So I was picked on from the age of 11 through till 18 by a few people that basically terrorized two of the towns where I was living at the time. It all basically kicked off because I went to a different senior school, of all reasons. Obviously, you know, that's what sparks all these sort of things off. I just went to a different senior school, and yeah, it all kicked off there. But this guy was like, oh, he was a nasty piece of work. He was, but at the end of the day, there was nothing you could do about it. You just have to sort of get on with it, and you know, karma definitely comes around, and I can say that because he ended up going through the windscreen of a car at high speed. So, say la vie. But yes, it was bad. I mean, he ended up he put a knife or a chisel or something through the hand of a drummer at the senior school they were at because he didn't like the fact that kid was really good at drumming. It's like, you know, people can just be horrible. People can just be horrible, and I think you just have to. Unfortunately, it's a really difficult situation with bullying because, but you know, unless you're in the situation, it's really difficult to understand how it makes you feel. You know,
Isn't it?
it's just yeah, it's not a great thing. Anyway, to lighten the mood a little bit for people who are still here in chat, I'm gonna air something we showed on the members only one earlier, just to for everyone to go ooh and ah at. He's done it again. The Sturmy that molted last year that I put on TikTok molted this week, and we have another time lapse. Enjoy.
Ooh. See, that's just so cool. Watching a spider molt never gets old.
No, it
No,
certainly doesn't.
I could watch these videos back to back for hours.
The funny thing is, the last video of this guy molting has been watched for. If you were to watch them back to back to back, it's 12.7 years. It's had over 119,000 hours of view time.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, so there you go. That's my latest time lapse.
How many views has that had so far?
I don't think it's that many actually. It's currently on 1,163. I'll put it up this afternoon.
It's not bad.
No.
What I found on TikTok is I don't have as many views as you do, but some of my videos that have the most views, they can have been up for a month, and then suddenly I'll just keep getting notification after notification about sort of likes and whatever else.
Not really. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, the thing was, what made me chuckle about so it wasn't that video. I had another video with my Carapoensis molting that ended up with 12.7 million views, and it got to 10 million views, and then Lad Bible messaged me and said, "Do you mind if we share it?" And I was like, "I don't care, yeah, whatever." I had to sign like a thing where it said that I can't go at them and say, "I want you to take it down off your social platforms" or anything like that. Like a release form. And it was really funny because it literally got about 1,000 more views after Lad Bible had shared it. It was like, woo. You know, they've got a huge fan base. And the video did nothing once they shared it. But it already hit 10 million. I did have journalists from the Daily Mail ask me if they could share it, and I said no. I had someone from The Sun come and ask me if they could share it, and I said no. And then I had someone else. I had Joe, like joe.co.uk, ask if they could share the Sturmy video, the one that's got like just under 32 million, and I said no to them as well because the videos were doing okay on their own. And it wasn't the fact that I didn't want to share it because it was a case of I was trying to be all like pious about it or anything. It's just the fact that with these companies, they're not doing it because they want to help you share your video. It's like if I was going to share one of Mark's videos, I'm doing it because I want him to have more views on his video. They're doing it because they get an awful lot of advertising. They're doing it because they get an awful lot of pull. And if people are watching their stuff, they can promote their items on it. Like the news people, the journalists, they're normally freelance journalists that work for the newspapers, which means that once you say yes to them, they can sell the video to the papers. So whatever the papers are paying for that video to be, they're making the money. You don't get anything out of it. And whilst I don't care about the money for me, I don't see why someone else should earn a load of money off of the back of my efforts for my hobby.
Yeah.
Bye, Strugs.
So that's why I said no. Hey, Strugs. Yeah, so that's why I said no to them all. And it was quite nice. But yeah, that one, the advantage I've got over there is because I've had a couple that have gone crazy, and the amount of followers I've got now on there, it will get views regardless. Like, but the other thing is, I'm not monetized on TikTok, and I won't monetize myself on TikTok. So I could have sort of sold out a little bit and made a fair amount of money on TikTok with those two videos. I think they pay between 2 and 4 cents per 1,000 views. So if you do the maths on that, if they pay the top end, I think it's about £500 for 32 million, which is a fair bit of money. But when they were going through and I was looking at the monetization, whereas monetization on YouTube is very much a case of, it's run by Google, it goes through AdSense, it's all secure, you know what you're getting, they send a thing through to your door, you send the code back off, you get your monetization. With TikTok, it's a case of Chinese-owned platform, even though it's in Ireland or wherever it is, the office for the UK stuff, it's Chinese-owned app. You're giving them a passport and a driving license or a utility bill. It's like, no, I've been a victim of identity theft before. It's like, I'm not doing that. That's just ridiculous. And for the fact that I didn't have you have to have 10,000 followers to get monetized. So I didn't have the followers for the first video, but when I did have the followers, almost it was a case of, you've got one video, you're going to make that money once. What's the point? Unless you keep going viral, which doesn't happen to people, the money's going to just dip right down. And I haven't got the time or inclination to make videos for TikTok every single day. So it's what's the point? But yeah, but yes, it's nice to be able to catch the time lapses, and I'll share them on there because it's an easy format to share them on there. But that's what it's for, really, for me. But I couldn't believe I caught him again on his back. It was like happy days. Oh, not tonight, Erin. It's closed night tonight, mate. But yeah. I do catch a fair few of them on their back, but then again, people say to me, "Oh, you catch an awful lot of your spiders molting." I spend all day sitting amongst them. So if I'm on night shifts and I'm working from home, I'll be in this room and you can sort of tell with some spiders when they're going to molt. Other spiders you can't. Like I've got a spider that's got a bum. You saw it the other week, Mark. The Aratus. It's so dark. And that's about 15 months. I have no idea when that's going to molt because it's just super, dark, swollen, who knows. But then you get a pokey that doesn't even look like it's pre-molt, takes food down, and then 5 minutes later it's on its back. But
Yeah.
some of them you can tell, like that Sturmy, it had gone dark. I knew it was going dark. It had been off food for about 50 days, and then all of a sudden it went from a nice pale burgundy colour to black, and it's like it's just laid its web mat. You can't not see the web mat of that thing because it's covered in short, horrible hair, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, that's going to molt in the next couple of days, definitely. You're right there, Mark. Very tired, mate.
My Intinius molted. I didn't even know she was gonna. I just hadn't seen her out, and that she was under her hide. And then next thing, I see her at the side of a water dish, and I'm thinking, well, you look stunning, absolutely stunning. So I got a torch, looked under her hide, and there was a molt under her hide.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Some spiders are like that. It's weird. It's like I know that my Davises, you can tell when a Davis is going to molt, but then I've had other ones like my Kilobrachys, some of the Kilobrachys, all of a sudden it's like, okay, they've refused food, but they don't look fat, they don't look dark, they don't look, all of a sudden they're just on their back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find that with old worlds. I think new worlds really kind of, well, from my experience anyway, I mean, they really actually seem to pack on some size before they molt. Whereas old worlds, they can just sort of, you know, one minute they're eating, the next minute they've molted.
Honestly, Osman, thank you so much for that donation, mate. It means the world, mate, honestly. And yeah, it's nice when you can have a good in-depth debate about care and stuff like that without people getting riled up. It's always good, especially in chat. I've been keeping an eye on chat, and it's been really nice having the debate going back and forth. It's been good.
Agreeing with a lot of the points that we were talking. That's why I thought it would be a really good subject to bring up tonight. The subtopics that came about afterwards is, engaging, gets our minds ticking for a bit, and I just like listening to other people's opinions on things.
Yeah, it's yeah, I'm sure the poor will be fixed, Rogs. So we say it's been nice having an adult conversation. Cheers, Bastian.
Thank you.
But yes, it's been a nice stream tonight. I think we've had a good conversation with a lot of things. It's been very, very nice. And I do appreciate you guys coming up on stream.
Of course, dude.
Everyone is looking a little bit tired at the moment. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to probably run it till past, and then we'll call it a day so Mark can go and get some well-earned rest, because he shouldn't have his eyes on the screen for too long.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah, you know full well. But I'm not sure, Helen. I don't know if they're coming up blurry for anyone else. Let's have a look.
No, good here.
No, they're coming up okay on my screen when I look at YouTube.
Yeah, I'm
Actually, they're blurry on my screen on my phone.
I'm on
Very
my phone.
strange. Very strange. What else we got? Let's have a. Right. Let's have another time, shall we? Let's show another one.
Hey, the best.
Here we go. So this is the one, my Carapoensis, which I thought was a female, but unfortunately is a matured male. So my breeding project, unless they're that way inclined, is not going to be very successful, because I have two mature males.
Carapoensis somewhere at seas, dude.
Well, I know that Kelly at Just Tarantulas has got a female. I just haven't managed to make that one work yet. So,
well, do you want me to keep an eye out for you for a female?
if you can do, obviously that'd be cool.
Yeah, I'm always scanning the groups and scanning my feed and looking for stuff. I'm quite good at looking for things like Luke.
Mark's normally quite good at that as well. I sent Mark off at BTS for a few sort of like long shots, and he actually came golden with a couple of them at BTS.
Same thing with Miniman, isn't it, Mark? Appreciate that.
Here we go. A little time lapse of something a little bit different.
Yeah, I found Luke like 5 males in like the span of an hour that he needed.
This was demolishing the food.
I need to do some time lapses of the question marks, but the problem is they like to climb when I open the lid, so they all try to escape, especially the males. Pain in the ass. Yeah, just wait. Get ready for that, Jay. When the dominoes start maturing, they like to climb and try to get out. So, just
Oh, I don't. I took the
I've
lid.
only got one that's mature.
I fed those today. The hissers, and they decided to all the bait. There was obviously a brood on top that had just erupted out of the mum on the lid. They're in like a Komodo, and they've all just escaped as I've pulled the lid back. They've all just come through the gap, and yeah, it wasn't the best in the world. They I had a load of babies on the floor that I had to go hunting for.
hold on.
You got a stream tomorrow night, Erin? What time's your stream tomorrow night, Erin? Oh, what we got here, Jeremy? Hold on.
My domino roach colony. 1 second. Oh, I don't know what that was. Jesus, I think that was my phone stand. There's loads of them. Oh.
They're cool little looking things, aren't they?
Yeah, and the males love to climb out, but surprisingly, they're just going underneath the leaf litter today. But
My burrowing roaches are very similar to that. It's like the males just love a bolt.
That's a female.
I like them. They're cool.
Yeah, these are really nice. They mimic a poisonous beetle in India.
All right, okay.
Yep, see, there's the male climbing out now. So the lid goes back on, please.
I'm not sure what's happened. I think my millipedes, the little fire rainbow ones or whatever they are, I think that colony's had a bit of a crash. I don't think the millipedes are there anymore. I was told just give them white wood and leave them be, really. But they've not done too well, I don't think. So, and it's weird, Jeremy. I had a couple of isopod colonies sort of crash as well. The granulatums.
Yeah.
The granulatums, they're the pill. They're called pill, aren't they? Them ones, I think. Is that right?
Pill bugs. They're like the stereotypical sow pill bug potato.
Yeah,
bug.
those ones haven't. I couldn't, when I was rooting around in there, I couldn't find any in there of that. And also I don't know what I must have done something wrong with the ones I got from yourself at BTS. The magic potions. Yeah, I don't think that. I think I've probably got one or two. I don't know what's gone on with them, but yeah, I'll have to bring the tubs when I come to seas and show you, so you can have a look through them, see what you think.
No worries, dude. The one thing with the isopods is you gotta remember that they're a crustacean, so you basically treat them like you would treat shrimp. That it's kind of like, it's kind of weird. You don't really measure it, but like pH of soil, similarities to what they were previously living on, kind of thing. You know, I've had pod colonies just randomly crash because they didn't adapt well to the substrate.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You chuck them into a new environment, and they're just like it's stress. The stress does them in, basically. Yeah, that's what I think. That's what happened with the Hoffs. I think the Hoffs got territorial, but also it's a complete new environment. There's a lot to be said for just dumping them in their old stuff that they come in that tub, but you get them in. Definitely add that at least. But
and nutritional standpoint, like a lot of people will just keep them on a base substrate like a topsoil mix, but they are detrivores and they need like a decaying organic matter.
Yeah. I mean, I have. I'll tell you what's weird though is I would say things like the armadillidiums and the Procelios, like as far as keeping those two, a lot of them should be relatively easy. Leave them alone and they do their thing. But the one that is going absolutely nuts is my Panda Kings.
Yeah, they do really well, don't they?
It's like I don't understand. They're like, Kibaris, bit harder to keep and stuff, but they are going nuts. I've got so many tiny babies. Babies.
Waited before getting my Panda Kings. I got some of the first in the country and I paid £100 5.
Wow.
5 months later, they were 20 of them for 75, and then another month later, they were like 10 for like nilch. Like,
Yeah.
what
It's
but-
crazy. I mean, I know I'm going to have to. I've rehoused them once, and I'm going to have to rehouse them again into something a lot longer. I know that they, to be honest, they do quite well in a square tub, the pandas, because they like the humidity, so they don't need the gradient.
You want me to get
Really.
the big tubs I have? I can get the Panda Kings out if you wanted to have a look at like a larger tub inspiration.
Yeah, go on. Let's have a look. Yeah.
I'll quickly grab it.
Look at that setup he's got. Look at it. It's like a warehouse.
It's literally proper breeding. It's crazy. I still can't believe it. Right, so tub ventilated. Of course, Panda Kings don't need a lot, so I chose. Basically, my friend gave me a bunch of them there down here. So I chose one that doesn't have a lot of ventilation. I'll knock stuff over in a minute. So you want basically a big chunk of wood where they can have the choice to go between a humid area and a more dry area. Of course, Panda Kings requiring a little bit more humidity than a typical isopod. But if I was to set this up for like an Armadillidium species, I keep this corner humid with moss and let them stay on a dry area. Because if an isopod like Armadillidium has a fully damp substrate, they can drown.
Yeah.
Or they can get bacterial infections in their gills, because isopods have like ancient gill type. But yeah, it's basically just a big chunk of wood just for them to choose. And you can see they spread out between the chunk of wood. You can see some of the babies are closer to the humid side, some of them on the dry side. And you want like a good quality substrate. So I'll just quickly pop that down there.
Oh, look at that calcified moss.
Yes, tougher calcite is my go-to nowadays, my recommendation. Check out Curtis Lankin and Micro Exotics for that. Free plug. But yeah, see, they really enjoy it. They eat it, they utilize it as a calcium source, as a hide. And then substrate, I would have leaf mulch in here, but I only have rotten wood and dried leaves on the top. But yeah, so they eat. And you can see a lot of them stay. I have probably about 300-400 Panda Kings in here, and they stay in the substrate because they eat the substrate.
That's really weird, because a lot of mine are on the top at the moment, but I wonder whether it's because the soil's a little bit too damp at the moment.
If I move this moss, a bunch of them.
Oh yeah, you got a load in there, haven't you?
Yeah, a lot of mixed individuals, Manca. And then I can also show the guest joys if you'd like as well.
Yeah, go for it. I was going to say so with mine, what I found was like obviously keeping one corner a little bit moist. The issue I have is obviously if you let it dry out too much, we're talking about soil going hydrophobic.
Yeah.
You end up you pour water down on the plastic. Who's the guy? Is it Aquarimax Pets?
Yes.
Is he the guy saying like spray the water down the side of the plastic so it doesn't go on the soil? Yeah.
Yeah.
When the soil dries out too much, what happens is as you spray it down that plastic, it just pulls on the top of the soil, and then you have all the little isopods going like no, and it's like a scene out of the Titanic.
You see.
Oh yeah, they're nice.
To go onto the substrate or onto the cork, because the wood piece as well also gives them the option to get off the substrate if they want to. So that's why I choose pieces that are a little bit more concave rather than just a straight flat piece for them sometimes.
And that's what type of bark is that?
I don't know, to be honest. My friend collected a bunch of it and I've just been utilizing it. But they seem to be enjoying it.
Yeah, it's not cork, is it? It's actual hardwood.
From outside, and you see this substrate is fairly dry on this side, and by the tougher calcite it's a little bit more humid, but again Armadillidium like it a bit more drier generally anyways.
Do you know what I'm going to do? Right, I think what I'm going to do, Jeremy, is I'm going to come and pick you up. We're going to have a day at the Bug Hut, but we're going to stop off at Tarantula.Rookie, and you can have a browse through my setups.
Yeah, because again, this moss is pretty dry at the moment, and they've been eating it as well.
Yeah, they'll eat that quite heavily, won't they?
Yeah, they'll leave just little stick bits. It's quite cool. Yeah, you can see them big
They
ones. Right?
normally use those stick bits to walk up, and they put it up near the holes, and then they'll climb up and all escape.
That's why, also, despite the tub being quite deep, I'm literally giving them just an inch of substrate. And
Yeah.
what I'll do, because the substrate as they eat it, I don't know if you've noticed in isopod colonies, you can see the frass on the top.
Mm-hmm.
If you top up that substrate, just put it straight on the top, that frass will just compact, and it will become nutrient rich. So when you come to rehouse them into a bigger tub like this, for example, you can take that substrate and use it for plants, because that's nutrient bomb right there. Perfect. I use beetle frass for all my plants, and they do fantastic on it.
Oh, the mealworm frass is amazing on house plants.
Yeah, well, here's some. These are so nice. I love Armadillo Gestory.
It's one of my species that actually have done quite well.
They're really nice. Great display species as well. I'm hopefully going to do like an Exoterra setup for the Marinella Red Diablos at some point, because they're time a lot. They've been found in like trees and stuff, or low shrubs. So I'd like to set up a arboreal setup.
No, Darren.
That's the most important
Erin.
Substrate for them to eat and a gradient. That's
what amazes me, right? Interestingly, is I know that they're quite hardy, so it's probably the reason why. But you see a lot of Pacellio laevis orange sold in tubs as a put this in with your in quotes bioactive setup for like crested geckos and things like that. But where you're keeping the Pacelios, like they're one of the drier side, aren't they, as compared to like on the isopod scale?
I mean, that depends again on the type of Pacellio.
But if you look at the Pacellio laevis,
Yeah.
relatively dry.
Yeah.
But you chuck them in a crested gecko setup that you're going to mist most people morning and night to keep the humidity up to where they are in New Caledonia. And the Pacellio, and then you've got the Pacellio in there, like on the base, and that's what they sell them as. It's like there must be a more appropriate isopod to sell as a cleanup crew for a cresty gecko setup than a laevis orange.
The laevis. My best bet is what I recommend for like if you are wanting to keep isopods with your tarantulas, so I don't recommend it, is the dwarf whites and dwarf purples.
Hmm.
Hi, Bolty.
I know dwarf whites have that
Hey,
reputation
Bolty.
everywhere because they are parthenogenic, but if you want dwarf purples, they don't breed as quickly. They stay mostly substrate, so they do benefit of churning the substrate, keeping it loose and not compacting and building up gases and stuff. But yeah,
it's quite nice for the isopods in the cresty, I think. I mean, I don't keep isopods in with the tarantulas, but with the cresty, I think it's nice because sometimes the cresty will maybe have a munch on one of them, but they do tend to keep the soil quite nice. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's what's great about them and why they're like an essential part of like terrariums or like little terrariums that people set up, because that's what keeps plants fresh is their frass.
Yeah,
because they turn the substrate and give the plants new nutrients to break down.
This is what people seem to forget about things like isopods, springtails, and live plants, is the fact that not the amount that they do for cleaning up, but the amount of good they actually do for the soil to stop it becoming stagnant, moldy, mold spores, all that sort of stuff. It's a case of plants oxygenate the soil quite heavily, not the other way around.
In the soil as well, which are produced by the cleanup crew, but then the cleanup crew are providing nitrates for the plant to benefit. So when it loses its leaves, the detrivores can eat the leaves and just keep that cycle going.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys. I did say we was going to end this at 2:30, but it's now 1:45. And
my bad.
You're absolutely fine. I'm just conscious of Mark and his screen time. I'm trying to be a good parent to him because he won't help. Because he won't help himself. He won't help himself. So I just want to say thank you everybody in chat for coming along and watching tonight. And I really do appreciate all the new members. Honestly, I do appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Like, I'll make these videos. I say it a lot, even if I was just me watching my own videos. But so to have the support from people actually becoming members is just unbelievable. I really do appreciate it. What I'm going to start doing, hopefully in the future, is actually have like vlog style videos that will be coming out for members only. So it'll be more of a behind the scenes of what's going on in here, not just like rehousing, feeding, and that type of stuff. Just me chatting about stuff, and maybe get the odd guest on one of my videos and sort of just have a little chat with people and stuff like that. But that'll be for members only.
Bastian wants an ending joke.
An ending joke. Oh, he's put me on the spot, hasn't he? He's put me on the spot. Give me 2 minutes. Give me 2 minutes. I've got to think of one.
Is there bonus points if it's a happy ending joke?
Oh, don't. There's so many inappropriate jokes, but I can't because I just can't, because I'm not that sort of offended. I don't want to offend people. Give me a minute. We'll have a little discussion. We'll let the live carry on until I can think of one.
I say one thing about channel members. I mean, the support they give, unbelievable.
Yes,
I couldn't do a lot of the things without them supporting me. And I'll be honest and upfront about that. You know, I wouldn't hear half the things that I do, the spoilers that I do, the shows I go to, and it's all thanks to them.
Yeah. I like I say, for me to go back and look when I started making videos to where I am with my subscribers and the memberships and things like that now, honestly, it's just, I just can't thank people enough, really. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like sit back there and just try and sort of like understand it time to time. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But it's also the friendships. There's friends that have sort of come up and stuff from it as well, you know. There's
that's what I say. You know, they support you with friendship, and they support you with membership, and you know, that's why I like to do channel member giveaways, because at least he's trying to give a little bit back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I would never want somebody to become a member of the channel if it was going to put them into like, you know, if it was going to financially, it wasn't like something they could do. Everything that I do get out of the memberships definitely comes into these things. The lives, for those people that don't know, this platform does cost per month. Like, yes, you can have a free version of it, but the free version of it comes with a lot of restrictions. So this is something that, you know, does cost money. So a lot of the memberships cover the cost of this StreamYard platform, and the StreamYard platform is quite expensive for what you get. It's not cheap. I have debated getting rid of it a few times, but with the memberships, it sort of covers the cost of it for me. So I'll just say thank you so much for everyone for the support. And for Bastian, the most appropriate joke that I can think of would be something along the lines of, okay, my wife told me that I had to take the spider out. There was a spider in our lounge and she told me I had to take it outside or take it out. So we went down the pub, had a few drinks. Turns out he's a really nice chap. Apparently he's a web designer. That's all you're getting. That's all you're getting.
Web designer.
Well, I've got a mate whose son was just ahead. So for his 18th, he took him to the pub, bought him his first drink, and all of a sudden he got arms. So he thought, bloody hell, this is good. Give him another drink. Give him another drink. He grew all his stomach and that. Next drink he had, he got his legs and his feet. But then the next one he had, he dropped on the floor dead. Barman said, "See, I told you should have quit while he was ahead."
Jesus.
Oh.
I went round my friends. He told me to make myself at home, so I kicked him out because I hate visitors. That's where I'm going to end it. That's where I'm going to end it. It's been brilliant, guys. I do appreciate you all watching, and a special thanks to everybody who's come on screen tonight. I really do appreciate you guys for making it really interesting discussions on the lives. So thank you so much, and thanks to everyone for chat. Thank you for all the support, and we will catch you guys next time. Actually, next
Night,
week.
everyone.
Next week I've got a live, so we'll be there next week. Catch you later, guys.
Night all.